Let's cross our fingers we fix this. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Let me see the preview in on my phone. We'll see how far we get. Anyway. Welcome in. We're gonna test this first. So guys, sorry if I'm late terribly. It's the third try at it. Okay, it's better now, I think. Alright. Welcome to the world's famous billions watched here live on YouTube. Oh my goodness, it takes a while here to get here. We're live on YouTube. We also go live on TikTok and my other stuff. I think we're separating it now. So all the podcast stuff is gonna live on YouTube. All the other stuff, if you venture over on TikTok, you should. I do some singing. Yeah, I sing sometimes. Also, play some video games with my PS5. I think that's gonna live over there on TikTok. I think it's because of the fact of, for the most part, it's because I want to take advantage for the podcast itself. I want to take advantage of the quality here on TikTok. So, I welcome you guys in. It took us a while to get here. Oh my goodness. I don't know what was happening. I haven't been on TikTok. No, I haven't been on TikTok. I haven't been on YouTube for a bit. And yes, some amazing things have happened here on YouTube. We'll discuss that later. But I mean, it's just been a busy past 2 weeks. Like, spur in the moment things. Like, it's one of the things that you least expect would happen here. In the Philippines. But yeah, it's in the Philippines. I mean, if you didn't know, I live in the Philippines. Currently, I was from the United States in California. I lived there for 40 plus years of my life, and then we made the decision back in 2024 to move to the Philippines, and that was for our parents. So I'm always purpose driven in the sense where, like, there was a purpose why we got here, and that was for my parents. They did so much for us. They immigrated into the United States. Cut the story short. They immigrated to the United States from the Philippines in 1975, gave me and my older brother a living there in the United States. And, they worked their ass off. They worked for 30 plus years. My dad was in the United States Postal Service. My mom was in the county. I think it's for Alameda County, if you know where that is in California. Alameda County, worked for the hospital over there. Worked hard. And they gave us a living. And us as kids growing up in the United States, yeah, we were probably challenging as fuck for them. But as you get older, and sometimes like this is like the dynamic for a Filipino is that, for example, like your parents raise you as a kid, and then when you get older, tide turns. Or basically now you're taking responsibility of your kids. Now, United States is different, obviously. Like, and I understand United States is more of a faster pace, a faster pace environment compared to the Philippines. Once you move to the Philippines, and this is one of the things I learned, is like, everything is much more slower. Things take more time. You just have to get adjusted to a point where basically you just have to get over it. And, one of the things we were dealing with is going to be relative to that. But yeah, 2024, we moved to the Philippines. Our purpose, my why here, along with my brother, was to move to the Philippines. Bring my parents home. And we did. So, speaking of the challenges and moving forward to like current day, yeah, it's been busy for the past 2 weeks. Yeah, 2-3 weeks. Mind you, as we had our podcast back on, was it January 21st? Also the podcast, the last one. And it did pretty well. I hit the algorithm from my last 2 podcasts, for the one from January 21st and the one from January 9th, I think. We hit the algo. I did some minor changes, and some people on YouTube like, Joe, you should have done that shit in the beginning. Like, and you've seen all my other podcasts, like you see the thumbnail. It was like the stationary picture of me, and then it was an AI picture I did with ChatGPT. And I decided one day, I was like, hey, why not just change it and just use a random image for my podcast? And I was like, yeah, okay, why not? I did that, and then also at the end, I also did the end placards. Okay, so after you watch my video, here's where you get to go. Subscribe to me, and everyone, please, here on YouTube, while you're watching me, because I see a lot of people watching me. I appreciate you giving me a subscription here. yes, I understand. I may be in a position where I'm not your cup of tea. But for those many few of the individuals who are like, man, this guy Joe Lobo, he did something to me where it just made me do a monumental change to something. I don't know what the fuck it is, but he did. And those are the people it's catered towards. And I appreciate folks who, like, when I see the click through rate of like people looking at my podcast, and there's people reviewing it, and shouts out to that. Like the last two podcasts, I got an algo boost. Like the one on the 9th got up to 1.2k views, and the other one is like at 300 views. That's a lot for me. Some people might be telling me like, Joe, what are you talking about? Like, that's nothing. But dude, coming from where I started, coming where I began from, that's a fucking lot. So, I pat myself in the back for that. It's just like, a lot of people, and this is relative too, because I'm on that, I told you guys before, I'm on that Facebook page that has all the podcasters and whatnot, and people ask the same questions like, what do I do? How do you know I get views? And I'm just like, dude, just press through. And I did that today. Like there was a post where someone was saying something about where, like, how do you know you're successful if like you only have single views? When does it go up? And I told them just like, you just keep on going. And then I used the example of my second vid from the podcast from January 9th. And I was like, look, here's the analytics. And I was referenced, that's the one that went to 1.2k views. And that's wild. It's awesome. And I just did minor changes. I just changed. And this is, for example, for you, a pro tip essentially, where, if you're listening to on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or here on YouTube, or even some else where you're probably getting like a snippet off this in TikTok. Pro tip is maybe use a random picture from your podcast. Thought about it, and I was like, why not? You will get the algo boost you need. And then just also at the end, which I learned is, making sure that you're redirecting the people at the end to say, hey, if you like this stuff, you should go to my channel, subscribe to me. Here's reference. And like, if I told you guys before, like every podcast I do, I at least do 2 shorts though. And those are the same shorts, by the way, that I do also on TikTok that I post here on YouTube Shorts, where basically it's, I at the end of these videos, I was pointing the 2 ones I posted, and it's usually a quick, I don't know, like 1 minute 30-second video of like stuff I do. You see all my shorts. Take a look at my shorts, by the way. If you're subscribed to me on YouTube or you're brand new here, you randomly see me, take a look at them, because they usually have meaning to it. I don't put bullshit out there. And like, again, I understand I'm not cup of tea for most people, but for the most part, it's for the many few who are just like having a bad day, or they lost their mind, but they lost themselves, and they're trying to find the way, the outcome or solution to how to get out of it. So this is where like for me, yeah, I am ecstatic regardless of like, for the view rate, like how long you watched it. I appreciate people coming and just looking at it. Maybe 99.999% are just like, enough more of this slop. But like at the end of the day, it's just like, I'm looking for the certain few of the small individuals who are like, at the end of the day, my thing is called, it's not about me, it's to inspire you watching this. It's just like, you can do this shit too. You can do anything you fucking want to get your grasp to. You just gotta believe it. So it's amazing. And I was gonna say this till later, but I think for the most part, we just organically jumped into it. Just like, yeah, those 2 videos were amazing. Like I just did the mind thing. I did also a 3rd video too. I did the last 3 videos because I didn't want to do my whole redo of all the podcasts I did to do the same thing. So I just like, hey, let's just try to do the 3 and see what happens. And lo and behold, if you're ever curious, look at all my podcasts. Like they're all like double digits, except the 3. The 3rd one, it's slowly graduating up, but for some odd reason, it's the one that's the second to last, the January 9th or January 21st that went off. So in reference to that Facebook podcast channel group that I'm in, going back to that post, like people asking like, when are the numbers gonna come? What's blah blah blah? And I just say, yeah, just keep on posting. Don't worry about the numbers. Just if this is for you, if your purpose of why is to spread your knowledge on whatever the fuck you want to talk about. For me, it's motivation, inspiration, inspiring those many others to be like me, to get out of your comfort zone and decide to do the stuff you want to do. Like get out of your comfort zone and speak your piece on a podcast, for example. Just fucking do it and just keep on moving with it, because you'll be surprised how far you get at the end of the day, like of all this stuff. And then one way or another, it's going to be a situation where you're actually progressing and you see it. And this is like the prime example of those two videos. I was just like, wow. Like when I did the change and all of a sudden the algo boosted it, I was just like, oh, okay. Like I thought it was gradually, oh, I got a couple hundred. And then like I noticed like the per day was like, I don't know, like for even that January 9th video, it was going up to like at least 100 a day or 200 a day. And I think right now it's capped because I see it's at 1.2K whatever views, and then the other one's like 350, and that's fine. But I think it's just an example. It's just like, you know, the pick and choose. And who knows, maybe this podcast that I post, the actual, not this, I don't know if this live version is going to show anything, but like the actual edited podcast that I do, maybe it might go back to 10 views. Who knows? But I feel like when you have milestones like that, you cherish them. Just like, wow. And those should be reminders where like tell you, gosh, I've gone somewhere. I'm doing it. And there's going to be a shit ton of doubters who are going to tell you like, no, Joe, don't do this. Don't do that. Don't worry, you're wasting your time. You should be thinking some more important shit than just your podcast. Who the fuck's going to listen to you? And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who are going to come to me and say that shit. And I'll be honest and real, like in the reality of things, people, and I've talked to this before, in the reality of things, there are believers who believe in you and support you, or there can just be individuals who support you but don't believe in you. I hate to say it, and you know, it's the truth, where people are going to say, I support you and this and this and that, but they don't necessarily believe in you. Like they support you, but do they actively watch your podcast? And versus some individuals are like, hey, I was waiting for you to go on your podcast, but you didn't show up. What's going on? It's a big difference. So like I said, you just keep on pressing, you keep on moving, because you don't know how far it goes. Even with these podcasts going live, I don't have any expectations to have like people coming in immediately say, hey Joe, what's up? Da, 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 da. It can be completely silent. And this is like, for example, reminiscent to like TikTok, because right now there's like one person watching me, and that's fine. This is reminiscent of what I had to do when I started TikTok, where, you know, in TikTok when I was doing like 20 minutes of going live and no one was showing up, quote unquote, no one is showing up, because TikTok is funny, and I'll explain a bit. Like no one's showing up, but for me in my mindset is just like, okay, no one's showing up. What should I do? Should I just shut up and just wait for someone to come in and just talk to them? And I'm trying to position myself as a podcaster. No, you got to keep on talking. You got to keep on talking, regardless. If there's no one, if it means that if this means that you are talking to yourself, shit, talk to yourself. Act as if you're talking to 5,000 people, even though the mechanism, the app you're on is telling you nothing. That's how you get fucking confident. And it's all because of the repetition, to the point where this is going to be easy the more you do it. Yes, you know, it's funny because, and I'll talk about what my podcast, when I was editing it last week, the January 21st one, yeah, I knew I was doing a lot of trips and falls. I saw it when I did the edit, and that was the first long time, and this is what we're going to be doing now. We're going to do a long form edit so we can have a polished, edited version of the podcast. There's a lot of trips and valleys that we had to deal with, and I realized when I was listening to it, and it's amazing when you listen to recordings and you tell yourself, and before, mind you, I was just like, finish it live, pull this out, post it, and I didn't realize, like, holy shit, like it's a night and day difference of like, what you sound is when you just immediately drop a file into like your medium, your profile, like your profile, your platforms, or you edit it, take some time, and you actually go through it. So segueing to this part, yeah, that was the situation I had my first, the January 21st podcast, where like, I actually made a decision because I noticed, or something was telling me, I was like, hey, maybe you should edit your video. And mind you, I've done editing before when I was doing my short form on my previous channel, like the beginning heyday of my content creation career, when I was just purely doing cinematics, and then it turned into like motivational speaking daily episodes, whatever you want to call it now. But had experience of editing. I just didn't do it for the long form. And then until I decided, like, okay, let's go do this. But man, when we went through it, even though, and I mentioned this, I don't know if I mentioned it, but even though we went through a time of editing the file, I did say a lot of ums. I did say a lot of weird stuff that didn't make any sense. But this is where, like, it's important to go through the editing piece to make sure you, like, your final version, the one you're gonna put out, especially on, like, you know, I'm putting it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Those should be the finite versions. And that's what I did. It took me longer, and this is the kind of, maybe it's partially the reason why, like, you know, okay, the time from editing, and I gotta tell you what happened with editing. The time with editing, like, it takes literally, I think it'll take me 2 full days to put it together. What ended up happening, and it's kind of fucked kind of shit up, the first version I did of the January 21st podcast, it got corrupted. Like, I immediately, you know, that was basically 2 days work of editing on the original podcast that was live, like this version that we're doing right now, where basically all the edits that we did when it came to exporting, it exported, and right before I was going to post it into, you know, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, back on YouTube, I was like, let me take a look at the file. And I was looking at the file, and mind you, my editing software is CapCut. And I know there's some clips did not have no audio. Like a minute of missing audio for like 10 files, 20 files. And I was like, holy shit. And that took me 2 days to work on. Imagine the feeling of you completing something and you find out that all that work was what, for practice? That's what basically was. It's one of the things, like, well, best example, let's say you are playing a video game and it has those scenes where you can practice, and then you end up not paying attention. You're playing this video game and you're in the practice mode and you're destroying everything. You're like, oh, I'm the man. And then you press pause and you realize, oh shit, I was in practice mode. Fuck. And that's what happened. My first edit run through of it, my version 1 of the January 21st podcast, multiple audio files were corrupted, and I was like, what the fuck? And I was trying to find out, okay, how can I undo this? Can I go back to the regular file? Could I do this? Could I overlay it? Maybe just overlay one of the clips and put them in. But dude, there's so many clips I had to go through. It's gonna take more time, dude. So you know what I ended up doing? I said, fuck it. I deleted that file and restarted from step 1 of editing. Re-edited the file. So another 2-3 days. Again, I had to take a fucking 1 day break because I was like, fuck this shit. This is stupid. And that was something, I don't know, I think it was related to some rendering as in the resolution. Because I remember in CapCut, okay, again, these lives go at 1440p on YouTube, right? So I usually want to up it to 4K, so like the polished version looks the best quality ever. So that's what we did. So I did something where it was, I think it said do you want to update it to like Ultra HD, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it. But the processing time took forever. I remember that time for the first run, the first version. When I was about to press export, it said, hey, no. You still have to do these processes because you're doing Ultra HD. And it literally took me, I should have thought about it before I did it, because it literally took me 16 hours actually, just to get to start the export process. So processes, there's like 250 processes with the whole edited file that I had to go through. And I think for one process, it would probably take 5 minutes. So you can imagine how long that shit took. Came to the finalized version and it's just like a total waste of time. That should have been a red flag in a bit, but you know, you learn. So what did I do for the second one? Went through the edit and then came to exporting. I didn't touch anything. Only thing I did, it was just upscale the resolution to 4K 60 and then export it. It was perfectly fine. So that's one of the things we had to deal with. We're just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this shit. Or like, you put so much work and effort to something and you find out that it didn't mean anything. It was like probably a practice of like, hey, You're a great editor now. Now try it again and do better. So that's another thing too. It's just like, okay, well, what can you do? And it's always a thing. It's just like I was going through my head through this, and like after we failed in the first try, and I was like, should I just say fuck it and just go to the next, wait for the next live and not post anything? Just keep the live version and YouTube here on YouTube. And I was like, no, I can't do that, because obviously, like, I've got to think about, this is where, like, if you think about multi-platform, you're on multiple platforms, yeah, and shit, you can't be doing that shit, because you know why? Like, you probably might lose your audience in the other spot if you just like miss a month, and they're gonna be like, what happened to your podcast and what happened to this and that? So like, in my mind, I was like, no, I can't do that, because the consistency part that I always talk about, we're just like being consistent and making sure like you're gonna go through, regardless of what kind of shit you're gonna do it, you're gonna fucking do it anyway. And that's a pure case in point. I had fucking issues with the editing, so I just kept on saying, nah, we got to do it. And then the times where I was just like, okay, maybe I should quit and just say forget it and just like leave the non-edited version here and let people find it. Couldn't do that. So literally took us total a week. So 3 days for the first edit, and it failed and bombed. Took a day off from editing, went back on the grind, and it took me like 2 days to edit again. And then the finished product. What's interesting of that, if you look at the January 21st product, we're talking about the January 21st product live, right? That is the one that I edited. The original file was 2 hours and 11 minutes or whatever. I literally cut down, I guess it was about a lot of ums, I guess. A lot of ums and multiple words, stutters, phrases that didn't make sense. We basically cut down a lot. We went from 2 hours and 11 minutes to like hour and 50 minutes. So that's where give and take. We're just like, okay, it makes more sense to do it. So again, to close the story on this piece, we are going to do full edits. So this one that comes in, yes, this will be the live version that you're seeing here live on YouTube. Folks can see it and see all the original raw versions. Me talking about like how we struggled in the beginning of all this. Well, this is what you're going to see. Now, the final version, again, as I mentioned, the final version that people are going to see, and also too the shorts that are generated from that, will be from the edited version. So probably take 2-3 days to see the final version, depending plus or minus how life treats us. That's, I think, the role of it. So this is like nearly now a week process. And you always talk about how in the previous, where I was just like, okay, can I turn around podcasts every day? Fuck yeah, let's do podcasts every day. Nah. It's probably gonna be once a week, given the nature of like, okay, now Mr. Consistent, Mr. like, I want to make sure my quality is good. Me saying, okay, we're gonna make sure the version that people are gonna see is gonna be the best version. So we gotta do it. We're gonna do that. We're gonna make the edits. We're gonna do long-term edits. This is growth, everybody. Like, if you don't go through all this shit, like even like with the trial, the troubleshooting that we did do earlier, because I was almost at the point. That was my third try going live here on YouTube, and if it failed again, I would have just put in a comment and say, hey guys, we tried. We're gonna go back tomorrow because it's not working. But everything's working now. I'm still questioning if my computer is hanging on, and it is sort of hanging on a thread, but just like, oh my goodness, it's kind of, it's all crazy what I'm seeing, but we're still live. It's amazing what's going on, but we're still live. So hey, we're gonna go through this until the wheels fall off, and then go from there. But you're always gonna go through some wild shit, and you just have to just deal with it. So that's where the editing piece, that is kind of partly the reason for the delay of like the podcasts have been like, you know, it's almost been like more than a week now of why I took it out, and that's half of it. It's because of that, where had some issues editing, took me a while. That was literally a week of editing that we had to go through to make sure that, you know, everything's gonna be perfect to the standard, my standard. Everything's gonna be perfect to my standard. So that's what we did. Now the second piece of it, where life gets in the way, me living this is now the experiences of me living in the Philippines. I think I mentioned this before, and before we get to that story, I meant to mention it before, like just living here in the Philippines as being like a homeowner. Yes, I own a house here. The house we live here. It's a family house, but it's under my name. You learn a lot of things. Like one, it's definitely not like the United States. Like, and then what I mean by that is just like, the building quality is one. The expectation of how fast of a return of as a sense of like, how fast are you gonna get a reply on the service that you need? Like, how quick is this? Because like in the United States, it'll probably be the next day or within hours. Here in the Philippines, you're on their time. It's gonna depend, honestly. It's gonna depend on how long it's gonna take. So it's really on their time, and that's one thing I've learned is this definitely isn't the United States. And with the United States, and this is where I think people like especially my parents, where they come to gripes with sometimes, we're just like they automatically think the standard in the United States is the customer is always right. The customer gets whatever the person wants. Whatever happens, you need to bow down and say yes. That happens in the Philippines. Philippines is a welcoming country to, especially to individuals, to like elderly and people. They're very welcome and helping, but in the same way, things run slower here. And this is where like, my adjustment living here now, it's been 2 years living here in the Philippines. The just in the realization that it's not like the universe and things take time and just have to be kind of a little more patient to get through stuff, because at the end of the day, the more you bitch and complain here in the Philippines, you're just gonna get more bitching and complain, and more than likely some people might just turn off to you and ignore you. So that's one of the things I've learned is where, be patient. But, for my parents, they're like, oh man, if this was the United States, this none of that happened. I was like, yeah, that's the United States. We're in the Philippines. You gotta deal with the Philippines. Same thing with my brother. My brother has grown to understand it as well. It's like we're not in the United States. Like certain shit. Like, I mean, even with like now explaining that, there's another thing I have to talk about. I didn't even talk about where I was having issues with my phone from a phone carrier. I'm not gonna say who the phone carrier is, but we'll talk about it after this. But what I'm trying to get to is basically it's a little different here in the Philippines. You have to have more patience, because if you have no fucking patience, oh my goodness, you're gonna go through some shit. So let's talk about the house. Like, I think some of you may know or may not know. And one of the main things of just like living in a house here in like a subdivision, it's nice and all. It's up to modern standard. I like it, but as in quality, sometimes you're not gonna get what you're gonna get. And you have to roll with the punches and just deal with it and work with the people you need to work with to make sure it gets done, because at the end of the day, it's not gonna be worth the time and effort to complain. So one of the issues we've been having is with our septic tank, our bathroom downstairs specifically, where we were having issues for some odd reason. And I'll talk about the first time it happened. It wouldn't flush. It was starting to have issues where it wouldn't flush. And we were like, what's going on here? Holy shit, what the fuck is going on? Why isn't it flushing? Like, it was to a point where like, you try to plunger the downstairs, and I live in a 2-story house here in the Philippines. When you're trying to plunger the toilet bowl and it's not going down and it's just overspilling, there's something wrong. So here in the Philippines, it's not necessarily, there is a sewage system, but it's not like the United States where like it goes to a repository under your house. There is something like that, but it's gonna be slightly different. But anyway, we had issues back then where there was an issue with our septic tank. So long story short, we'll talk about that one. We had to basically break the floor in my parents' room here in the Philippines, where the pipe is laid out that goes from, I think, from upstairs or even down to the bathroom, the toilet bowl downstairs, and leads outside. They had to break the tiles in my parents' room to access it. Now, I'm not gonna say what happened, but it was we'll just say it was a healthy discussion between the contractor we hired and the subdivision owners, I guess you can say. I'm not gonna say who they are, just respect to them, because they're amazing people. But the subdivision owners were essentially like, we're trying to figure out point blank what happened, blah blah blah. But what ended up happening is we built my parents' house over the piping that goes from the toilet bowl or the bathroom to the septic tank. So we had to destroy the floor and to access the pipe. So we changed the pipe. I remember that issue. And long story, just to replace the pipe, it took us, I think, a week. And it was probably one of the most stressful moments for me. A little stressful, not as stressful, but a little stressful because, you know, you have elderly parents in their late 70s bitching and complaining about the issues. And it's like, I think there's also a point where, you know, my brother was still in the United States and I was dealing with all this stuff. So having to deal with my parents and complaining and bitching and all this, and just like, okay, well, and this is, I think, the first week because my brother came back, I think the second, like about halfway of the completion, but basically I had to deal with that stuff and I had to deal with their temperament. And oh my gosh, like people getting stressed out. I remember the night where it happened and people were stressed out, getting complacent. And then, yeah, we took a week to replace the pipe. I guess something happened to the pipe. So that the day, what they decided to say is, okay, we'll have to replace this pipe and then everything will be fine and dandy. Here you go. So that's what happened. And that was one of the weirdest examples where just like, hey, and this is where, like, yeah, I live in a subdivision where, like, yeah, people are paying for the subdivision, like for their houses, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they actually are living in there yet. In this subdivision, there's a lot of houses are still empty. So the subdivision owners was like, hey, if you have to use number 2, just go ahead and use the one across the street. We just left the door open. Just go ahead and clean it. And the water's running. So go ahead and use the toilet. So for that week, with the exception of my parents, this is when we had our condo available and be able to use. My parents were put in the condo. I ended up using the one across the street because why not? And this is where we had our helper, you know, had to clean it. So we had to help her clean up the toilet bowl. Every time I had to use a number 2, you had to go across the street because you can't use a toilet bowl even upstairs. And here's the reason why. The design here in the Philippines is a little bit weird, where for some odd reason, not like if you're in the second floor and, you know, you have a bathroom in the second floor, whatever comes from the toilet goes in like the sewage. There's supposedly there's two pipes, one for shower, one for sewage. So the toilet bowl is a sewage one, obviously, right? So when you flush that one, it should go all the way down out to the septic tank. In this situation, no. And this is where, you know, not humiliating, but this is like a life opening experience I had to do, and try to be the least descriptive as possible. But basically whatever came up from upstairs from the toilet bowl, as in, you know, not number 1, when you flush it, guess what happened? It will go doo 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 doo. Okay, toilet bowl downstairs, coming back up, all over the floor. Yeah, that was not fun. And you can imagine who was the one that cleaned it up, me, because it felt bad having to help her clean my own stuff. So I cleaned it in myself. The stuff I did, I cleaned it myself. So without grossing people out, this might be a highlight of stuff I'm gonna put on YouTube or on TikTok. But like, basically, just imagine that. Just the business that you did upstairs in your office upstairs, and then ended up finding out your business comes out of the office downstairs, and you have to do it and clean it. I had to clean it. So that was the first iteration. It took a week, and I think a week or so to get it completed. Everything was fine dandy. Something was good. Had no problems. Now rolling into this week or last week to this week. Same issue. It was slowing down. For some odd reason, not the downstairs bathroom, it was leaking from the actual bottom of the toilet bowl. It was leaking outside of it. The design is weird in the Philippines. Like they, and you know, I'll give you an example. In the United States, when you put a toilet bowl in, you put the toilet bowl in and then you put the silicone around it. I mean, there's that gasket that you have that connects the toilet bowl to the actual line. Yeah, that's the United States. In the Philippines, it's a little bit different. I don't know if they actually put it together, but basically, thinking about okay, they put the line in, and then there's a huge layer of cement between the floor and the actual toilet, but like this. I kid you not, like this. So that happened, and it was leaking out from the toilet bowl, from the bottom of the toilet bowl. Like, what the fuck is going on? And it wouldn't flush. So here it goes again. Had another issue, and now it's a little bit better because my brother's here, and he's kind of taking the lead, which he's been taking the lead, and that's awesome for him. But we had to run to the same stuff. So basically, it led to the whole week, and my parents, we had to put my parents into a few Airbnbs, and it's funny because the first Airbnb they went to, and I'm not gonna say what location, the thing, same bathroom issues. Their toilet didn't flush. So it was just like, okay, here we go again. We put our parents in another place because of the fact of, our toilet bowl wasn't working, and then they go to another house and their toilet bowl's not working either. It happened. And then they were there for like 2-3 days while they're getting fixed. And then speaking of that, like they were still trying to figure out what was going on for our stuff. So like the main plumber that was here the first time, he came back, took a look and find out. And then what we ended up doing is this. Like, my dad decided, okay, we're gonna do my standard. So I let my dad do it because, like, something with my dad, just like, because he's 79 years old. His birthday was just a couple days ago. He's 79 years old. He still wants to feel empowered. So I'm just like, okay, this is your job. Go ahead, do what you want. Because then sometimes if I talk to my dad, he's like, and I try to tell him like, no, you can't do that stuff, and just blah blah blah. He gets upset. So to deal with that, and this is the stuff you have to give and take if you have parents who are older like that. We're just like, okay, just go ahead, you win, do what you want to do. So what we ended up doing is replacing the actual toilet bowl itself. And I told my dad, go ahead, this is your job. We went to the neighboring hardware store that's on Penglai Island, got the new toilet bowl. He got the stuff that he wanted. He directed the guy to do it the way he did in the Philippines, where not the layer of cement this big, but basically plop it onto the pipe with the donut, and then silicone around it. And then we thought everything was good, everything was solved, and then it was cool for a couple days. And mind you, what we ended up doing as well, we basically called someone, because we're having a conversation with the plumber, the site guy who was dealing with this stuff before the first time, and trying to figure out, okay, because like they made a mention that another house is having the same issue, where like something issue with their septic tank. And what ended up happening is they called a company to take, and this is what happens in the Philippines, when your septic tank is full, you call a third-party company to come here and take it out. So they take it out. So we had them come here. They took it out, took out all the stuff, and they were like, okay, looks like we're good, blah blah blah. So while that was happening, we have the empty septic tank, and then my dad was instructing the plumber guy to put the brand new toilet bowl, and it actually worked for my mom, because my mom has a little trouble walking, and there's like, if you go to that bathroom, they have the pull bars to get her up and whatnot. So we got a little bit smaller toilet. So instead of I think that was in there previously in that bathroom was an elongated toilet bowl, we got a regular standard one. And it was American standard toilet. So it's American version, the standard American standard. If you don't know what toilet bowls are, well, that's one of the better toilet bowls here in the Philippines. So did it to my dad's spec. Told my dad, go tell the person how to do it, blah blah blah, whatever. Everything's fine and done. And then we went to a day or so, everything was good, it was fine. And then here we go again, it's leaking out. The one that my dad instructed the plumber guy to do, it's leaking out again. And then here goes the swirl again of my mom. And it's my mom. My mom is the most worrisome person ever in life. Where like we constantly tell her, like, it's not good for your health at your age to worry, because she immediately thinks the worst of everything. They all immediately default to, we need to go back to our province house because we're having too many problems here. No way we can do that with the stuff we're planning to do, or the business stuff we're planning. No. That, and they're also, mind you, we're selling the province house because it's too far away. It takes literally 2 hours to do anything to the main city. So basically that, no, that's kind of that's not the solution we have to fix. So here goes my mom. I'm gonna call my mom. Just like, relax. You should stop worrying about it. Like, why you worry so much? What's the worst gonna happen? And you know, you always you have to temper that, and you have to temper my dad. So here goes again. We had to call and this has happened on Sunday or Saturday. We had to call the same plumber. The same plumber to come in and then take a look again. They took out the toilet. They first were trying to figure out what happened to the septic tank, and they was like, wait a minute. We opened the septic tank again, and it was back to full again. And we're like, what the fuck? Didn't we just took all this shit out? Like, literally? Because we did. I was there and I saw it was empty, and they took it out. I mean, minus, like, you know, and this is what another thing too I'll loop into. Here in the Philippines, they will do a cleaning service, and I'll describe in the nicest way possible how they clean it here. But we said no because it was empty. Let's see what happens. So we should have done it the first time, but we didn't. But anyway, coming to the second time, we had to call the same company again, and we told them, like, it's last minute. I know this is like at 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We're like, can you come back here because we need your help to do something because it's full again. So around 4:30 on Saturday, they came back, and then we told them, like, it's full again. And this is where we also had the plumber here, so he can direct and see, okay, what's going on here, because he is the subdivision master plumber. So he will know specifically what needs to be fixed and corrected and whatever. So here they come. And then we elected to do the cleaning. So that's what we did. We elected to do the cleaning to make sure that we don't have any issues like that. And what that includes in the cleaning is they clean the septic tank. They make sure if there's any clogs to pipes, they're the ones responsible to clean the pipes. Now in the United States, there's ways where, like, you know, they do it. They probably pressurize water to push out whatever is in your pipes that's clogged. Mind you, unless you live in the metropolitan city in like United States, you don't have to worry about septic tank unless you live far away in the rural areas. Here in the Philippines, I think it's nomenclature. It's normal where you're gonna have a septic tank, because there's not really a good, unless you live in like a metropolitan, like in the province here in Bohol, like most of the houses here are probably like subdivisions. Mind you have a septic tank for each of your houses. Unless you live in a condo, I'm thinking those are specific. The condo owners of the subdivision or whatnot are responsible for making sure that, you know, basically you are, you know, they take care of the stuff. They take care of the sewage. That's the responsibility. That's why you're paying for a dues per month of what's gonna happen. So we don't have to worry about that. So again, we came to the cleaning part. We decided to do it was the cost of cleaning. I think first to take out the main stuff, like the watery stuff, you take out, you know, that's 4,000 peso fee to take out just that piece. The cleaning is going to be about 20,000 pesos. So 20,000 pesos more or less are, what is that? More or less, I think for 10,000 pesos, you're looking at 170, 180. So about $300 or so of, like, you know, to clean it out, essentially. 340, 350. But basically what that cleaning involves, they do clean it, literally. They do clean it. You have a guy who's naked, half naked, maybe wearing shorts. He but he goes into the septic tank, and I don't know how you can bear the smell, but that guy is, you know what I mean? So that guy is basically the one that he's going to go in there, clean up whatever's there, make sure stuff is clean, and it's done for. So this is what I'm saying. In the Philippines, they manually do it, where he is using his hands to push it or take it out, to make sure it's clean, and it's sewage. That's how they do it here. So that's the guy going inside the septic tank, cleaning that stuff, and then making sure all the pipes are clean. And this is where like we found out the main source and cause. There was one or two causes, because this first cause was they came to find out, and this is another thing too. The subdivision like maintenance owner was telling us, make sure you don't use toilet paper. And I'm like thinking, what the fuck? How are you gonna tell people not to use toilet paper? Because like there's, and mind you, in this subdivision, there's a lot of non-Filipinos that live in the subdivision. A lot of non-Filipinos. Now, why do people say in the Philippines, don't flush your toilet paper in the toilet bowl? It's because of their plumbing. The plumbing is at times not as sustainable. I think it's more about the pressure or not to be able to push it to where it's going to go. You know what I mean? So they encourage folks to say, when you're going to, clean yourself up, put your TP in a garbage can that's right next to you. It is kind of, if you're from the United States, you're like, what the fuck? Are you serious? It's gonna make, and then, teach his own. People in the United States would be like, what the fuck? You're gonna tell me to do that? That's gross. Here in the Philippines, it's normal. We're just like, okay, I'm gonna do my business, but I can't, put my toilet paper in the toilet bowl. Everything else goes in the toilet bowl and you can flush it, but the stuff you wipe your butt with, or your stuff with, you got to put in a garbage can that's next to you. So anyway, the maintenance owner was telling us, like the maintenance subdivision owner that runs the whole subdivision of maintenance, the head of maintenance, they were telling us like, don't use toilet paper because this is what's going to happen. And we're like, no, we don't use that much toilet. And mind you, we don't, because of the fact of we have bidets. So if you don't want what the bidet is, the water sprayer from a toilet bowl that does the cleaning, like at least I would say 90% of the cleaning. Well, we have those. We have one upstairs and we have one downstairs. So like the use of toilet paper to just actually naturally doing it with water, literally I'm using not to be so descriptive, like 5 sheets of the squares. That's more than enough just to make sure everything's well-rounded, I guess you can say. So we were telling him like, no, this is what we're using. We don't use a lot of toilet paper. Like even though you're telling us and it's kind of wild, like you're telling us don't use toilet paper when you're going to go bathroom. But again, it's the Philippines. Their plumbing isn't that great. And then sometimes it's because of the pressure to push it down to the septic tank where it can get stuck. This is why they encourage people, don't use toilet paper. Just put it, put it aside, or get a bidet. So we're telling them that, like, no, this is what we're doing. And then when it came to the point, like literally the guy who was in there was pulling out a crap of stuff. And this is where it got interesting. It was non-toilet paper. So I'm not going to put blame. We kind of have ideas of what happened, but just for the sake of it, it was a lot of non-TP, non-toilet paper. There was even feminine products that was in there. I'm not gonna say who, what, why, and where, but it's just like a lot of stuff that you shouldn't be putting in there that would probably cause your lines to get clogged. And that guy who was cleaning the stuff found it. I was like, look, and I remember he pulled out. They were bringing out the storage bag to have all the stuff, and it was like this big of stuff. So that was the main reason the clogs were, essentially why everything was like, from the first time we did the cleanup and it was empty. And then 2 days later, we're like, wait a minute, it's full of water again. It's because it was still in the pipes. And I remember when they were manually doing it the first time, and mind you, the way they do in the Philippines, when they clean the pipes of the septic tank, they're like using sticks to poke the pipes to make sure they're clean and open. So they're going through the septic tank and using tubes essentially. And that what I'm talking about. And if you're from the United States, where like they have the big roller where you can put it in and just like make it pop out. We had one of those stuffs. We had them to use that, but most of the time they were just using long PVC pipe to clean it out. And then they cleaned it and went well, but I guess it wasn't hitting that piece. And that's where we're just like, there was a lot of non-TP in there. Goodness gracious. Like, I don't know why people were doing that and putting in their toilet bowl. And I question why you're doing that. But basically, it was wild. We found that, and then it cleaned it up, and it was good, but it was just wild. Like there was that two things where you wouldn't expect, because you would think with toilet paper, right? Toilet paper disintegrates. Like, even if you're using, I know people they do this with toilet paper, and I'm just like, wow, bro, you don't have to use that much for toilet paper. Like, are you serious? But like, yeah, I know some people will be doing that, but in theory, toilet paper will disintegrate. And I would imagine too, like, the difference between United States toilet paper to Philippine toilet paper, I imagine it does the same stuff, literally. Like, it should be deteriorating over time where it's just gonna be able to go through your pipes, right? So it wasn't a toilet paper until we found out it was non-TP. And whoever had their time of the month, they were putting their pads in the toilet bowl. So we got that fixed. We took it out. Everything was good and dandy. There was some minor stuff when they were doing I think it happened again where it was like, after we got it clear and blah, blah, blah. And this is like where the guy was finding out, like, after we cleared out the septic tank again, and they came back, they looked at the toilet bowl. Well, this is right after my dad told them to install the new one. Like, they looked at it again, they took it out, found out the actual pipe that connects to the sewage line to the toilet bowl, it wasn't like this, it was like this. So that makes more reason to believe, like, okay, well, this probably is the reason why it's spilling outside, because the connector that was supposed to go here is like this. So how are you supposed to connect your toilet bowl if it's like that? It's obviously not going to be straight, right? There's probably going to be some finagling you have to do to make it go like this in a weird way. And this is probably the reason why they did the cement thing of layer of like this big to put into a toilet, because for some odd reason they realized, oh shit. And the builders, there's a difference between the architects and the builders, and I'll explain that. But they probably looked at this like, oh crap, what do we do? Okay, well, we'll just put this stuff on top of it so it'll make it work. It didn't work. So what ended up happening is, like, my dad's instructing the guy that's the plumber. It's like, can you replace that PVC pipe to make it go like this? So that's what happened today, where they had to dig into the bathroom, to the dirt, to take out that pipe that was a little off to make it go back like this, so we can avoid issue. And again, that was probably one of the reasons why, like, the issues of like why it would never flush correctly. It's probably because of that, because it wasn't straight into the toilet bowl. So basically, my dad had to tell the guys, like, do it this way. Because my dad's, like, my dad's a 30-year contractor, and this is why sometimes it's hard to talk to my dad when he knows it's specific to home improvement stuff, because he'll put his foot down. It's like, no, this is the way I do it. And that's like, it's one of the things where it's just like, it's hard to tell your dad or your thing if someone is so experienced in construction work and they know how to do it, and they've done it themselves and done it with their bare hands. I have experienced this when we were trying to sell our old house in the United States, where he's like, do it my way, because I know how to do it. And my dad's in his 70s, late 70s, but he's like so adamant, just do it my way. This is how I do it. And I'm like, okay, fuck it, let's do it your way. And then, yeah, so that's what happened. He told the plumber to fix this, blah, blah, blah. So good thing is, everything's better. I'm crossing my fingers that, that's it. So hopefully tomorrow gets fixed. They're going to come back tomorrow. They already finalized. They couldn't finish it today because I think the putting back a new pipe and the contents to make it solid, to make sure it's secure, it wasn't cured. So they had to wait overnight. So basically what the plan would be is they have to come back there. They have to fill up the hole they made and then put back the tiles. I think it was brand new tiles that my dad ended up buying just to make it work. So hopefully, cross my fingers, we don't have any issues. But like, lessons learned, it's just like, there's two things I took out of this is, well, one, having the fucking patience, because this ain't the United States. And I tell that to my parents. I tell that to my brother. It's just like, I think, again, I mentioned my brother is probably realizing, yes, this isn't the United States, where things have to work differently, where you can't expect people to be on your dime to say, you need to be fucking here tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. They're gonna say, we'll be there 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And are you gonna yell at them? No, because this is how it works in the Philippines. It's just like, okay, well, we got our own shit to do, so we will talk to you when we're ready to talk to you. That's how it works. You just gotta be patient and be nice. Again, Philippines is a very welcoming country, but if you're gonna be a fucking asshole, and I've seen it, they're gonna ignore the fuck out of you. And this is where, like, and I'll talk about it. Like when we made the decision to bring my purpose here, to bring my parents here in the Philippines, elderly people get treated better in the Philippines. And this is why here in Bohol, a lot of the expats that come here, they're very older in their 60s and their late 60s and 70s. And some of them are not in the greatest shape ever. It's because of the fact of like the dream. Yes, one of the dreams are, I guess, yes, for an expat who, you know, they're retired or their wife moved on and it's just them and they're coming back here, is a belief of, well, someone's gonna take care of me and someone who's actually gonna love me again. Sometimes that means that they get someone who's a little bit younger than them, but you know, it's the what you call it, the welcoming. And this is why I feel like some of the expats who are a little bit older decide to come here is because of that. Because people will take care of them and love them and appreciate it. And that's where like it comes with the Philippines, where it's just like you are appreciated if you're older. It's like even where like the program they have for senior citizens, like you can get a senior citizens card, and then sometimes at groceries you get a certain percentage off depending what you use. You have to get a booklet for the municipality you're from or the barangay you're from. Like barangay is like, you know, borough for you United States folks of the city or town you're at. So once you have that booklet, you can bring it anywhere you want in the Philippines and say, hey, here, I'm a senior citizen, blah, blah, blah. You get your perks, you get your discounts. Like you get, sometimes even at food restaurants, you get a senior citizen discount. So that's why it's cool sometimes when you go with my parents, we're just like, you know, we get discounts on food and we go to a restaurant. Even too, when you have parents when you're older, like you're trying to get like not handicap, but special, the handicap senior parking, it's perfect when they're there because like you can have them and we can park right in front of the store because they're there. And that's where like it's like, so that's where like, you know, the Philippines takes care of their elderly. They offer stuff like the healthcare services. Yes, people can say so much about the healthcare services, but I heard like for senior citizens they get a big deduction off of like, you know, if they're in the hospital and whatnot. So that's the cool part. But that's the thing, the Philippines is known to be welcoming. They take care of people, especially the elderly. That's why here in Bohol there's a lot of expats who are a little bit older. Like most of the people, like my brother's friends, they're a little bit older, like late 60s to almost 70s or whatnot. And I mean, I could be exaggerating how old they are because there's some young people younger my age, but like I think for the most part it's just like it's a lot of older people here. So, you know, this is where just like taking your time, being welcome. This is why more people come to the Philippines, because they get that respect again. And it's, you know, living in the United States, you're in that rat race where the older you get, sometimes you get forgotten, or the people or something that people think they get forgotten because, like, you know, things are so fast there. So this is where, like, you know, having the patience living in the Philippines plays a lot, because yes, it's not like the United States. And that's came to realize that we're just like, you know, even like I remember when we first got here, my brother was like, hit the ground running, like we're gonna do all these businesses immediately and put up businesses within the month. And no, it took us a year just to get our house, and then just starting to run a business. Now we're on year 2 of this shit, and it's then we're starting to get something down. We're doing the bits and pieces. We're now rolling into our second condo that my brother recently is signed to. So the first condo is under my name, the house is under my name, but like my brother needed presents too. So hey, he has a second condo under his name. That's in the process of getting finalized to get the keys. And then we'll have our second condo. So we're building something here. It's taking some time. We're trying to transact also the house in our province, the province house, because it's one of the things where it's too damn far. Like honestly, even thinking about like if you're running a business from that province house and you have businesses here, you have businesses in the city. If anything has an Airbnb goes wrong, and we're seeing it, if something goes wrong with your Airbnb, you need to be there. Like just like for example, that first Airbnb that we did, where there was an issue with the bathroom and the person was coming, he's like, oh, okay, can we come in and fix it? You have to do stuff like that. Imagine you have to wait 2 hours and say, no, sir, we're far away. We're gonna be there in 2 hours. There goes your Airbnb review. So this is where like our province house we're going to be thinking about, so we're going to be selling it. We're on the market right now. It's a little bit different how they do selling here, and I shake my head and I'm just like, really? But it's what it is. What are you going to do? I mean, at least for me, my sake is just asking and reminding, like, what the heck's going on? So I ask my brother consistently, like, what's going on with it? Like, what's the guy doing? Because the person we have has exclusive to do stuff. And mind you, there's some interesting bits and pieces of like how that's working. But there's some like if you're like, let's say you're a fisherman, we're getting bites. It's just a lot of nibbling. And I always believe, like, I'm not gonna say anything is finalized until I see a signature or I see some sort of monetary coming my way, say it's about to be yours. Because nothing's finalized until that shit happens. A lot of people will talk. Say, yes, dude, I want this and blah 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 blah, and put your hopes up, and they don't buy it. But that's what I'm hearing, a lot of bites. And you know how things happen, as in, like, pushing to say, okay, like in the United States, for example, when you're selling a house, it is pushed by the realtor. They advertise it. They do this. They get out of the way. They have an open house to have people show it. The Philippines is a little bit different. I think they just post it and wait. So that's the main difference in the two. So, like, it's adjustment and you have to deal with it. But basically, for the most part, we're planning to sell the province house because it doesn't make sense to have that house there. Granted, my dad's plan, design, it was an idea to put the house I was building in 2005. Man, that's a damn US spec house. Like, in the Philippines, they have the cinder blocks are like this big, like they're this tin. We're using a house in the province was US cinder block, US spec cinder block, the heavy shit, the big, like really big cinder blocks. So we were using that. So that's one of the pluses of that house, and it's a big lot. So we're working through that. Hopefully we get it soon, and then we're gonna reallocate resources to use it over in where we live in Pangla Island near Tagbilaran, because like this is where our investments are. This is our future, like our scheme. And I visualize this. This is part of it too. I mentioned you many times, like wherever this stuff goes with our podcast, this is part of the piece of the pie of the big things we're trying to make sustainable living in the Philippines. Is this where there's gonna be multiple lines of stuff we do. My brother, he wants to be super duper busy and all this stuff, and this is where he's leading to. He's doing the property management piece of this, and I'm also managing other stuff with my parents' help and all that stuff. So basically, not only are we getting to Airbnbs where you have our individual projects, like for example for this, I'm gonna allow it to for example, just given what I told you early in the beginning of this podcast, where 2 of my videos were picked up by the algo, and then they got the views. So it's one of the things you don't know what to expect. So what I can do is keep pushing. This is one of my passion projects, to inspire someone based on my experience, to inspire people like you to think like this shit's possible. You may be going through bumps and bruises at the end of the day, but dude, you're gonna get somewhere with it. You have to. The amount of work that you put into something, please believe, like, you will get somewhere. You will get somewhere. So basically, I tell folks, just keep on going, being consistent. And this is where it's like, it leads back to all that stuff I was talking about earlier, where it's just like, yeah, I could have just said, fucking didn't do the edit of the first podcast and leave it as is and go focus on the one that we're doing right now. But no, I'm the person who talks about his quality all the time. I'm just like, no, I have to get this shit done. So we did. So those are things you have to do. You have to be consistent with yourself. You're going to do what you say and say what you do. Don't just fucking talk. Just fucking do it. Don't talk the talk. Walk it. Seriously. You can't go in life and say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you don't do shit. In the same way, you can't be scared of your fucking life to decide to do something, because if you're scared of your life, then yes, you'll be comfortable all your life, and whatever you're doing right now, that's perfectly fine. Again, I say it multiple times in the other podcast. I said it's perfectly fine if you're perfectly fine. If you want to be what you're at, if you feel like you want to be super comfortable, you don't have to worry about risk. You're just fine with what your life is doing. You want to be like, for example, if you imagine to be just like the wife and kid working to 9 to 5 and just like, growing old and becoming elderly and retired at 65 and have the retired life and this and that, but you're working your ass off do all the shit, then what am I going to say about that? That's you. And this is where just like, again, going back to uncomfortability, like, yes, it's better to be uncomfortable because of the fact that, a lot of the shit that most unimaginable things that people least expect happen. And that's where it goes with my podcast, where it's just like, I don't know where any of this stuff's gonna be. Like the bumps and bruises, like just for today, like how much effort it took. And I'm still looking at my computer because right now my computer is like working hard for no reason at all. I don't know why, but it is. But at least I'm looking at the output of my podcast and look, it's fun on YouTube. So I'm just gonna keep on going and then deal with this stuff later. But for the most part, you just gotta deal with it. You don't know where any of this stuff's going to be. You cannot predict the future. What you can do is have the firm belief and says, I'm going to fucking get somewhere. This is where like one of my friends from TikTok pointed out, it's just like, I believe you're going to get through this, Joe, because like you always say it. I see in you. You say like billions watch, and I fucking believe it. And that's when people say that shit to you, then you know you're on the right path. Even the same way, in the same sense, the people who stay behind the scenes and go to your lives and I'm talking about TikTok or even here on YouTube, the ones who like just watch you from the outside. I don't know if you can do it from here on YouTube where you can go to the outside and look in, but fuck, you can do that in TikTok where, you know, you can not go into the person's live, but you can still watch them. So there's a lot of like, you know, we can talk about that real quick. There's a lot when I go live on TikTok, I know there's a lot of people do that where they will watch me, but they don't really physically go and press the button to go into my live. Beats me why they don't come in. I mean, it's a mixture of those individuals who are like, it could be those people who are like, they don't think you're gonna go that far, and then you are surprising the fuck out of them to say, shit, he's doing it. But I don't want to go in there, or they're too lazy. I don't fucking know the reason why, but like it's one of the things where you can do that on TikTok. You don't naturally have to come in. You can watch from the outside and see in. They call it FYP for your, I don't know what FYP stands for. I can't think of the fly, but it's called FYP for your people. I should know this. I'm on TikTok. But anyway, FYP is kind of the standard, which is like you're scrolling through and you're seeing, oh, you see this person, you're watching it, blah, blah, next one. But there's a difference between scrolling through and watching from the outside or actually pressing to go inside the viewing so they can see you, that you came in. But yeah, you'll be surprised. Those individuals, when I bring that shit up, is like, there's a lot of people who like, you know, they why watch you and they're like, man, they're either jealous of you and they say like, shit, like, fuck, he's proving me wrong. But I'm still somehow, some way interested in watching him and seeing what he's doing and why is he doing the way stuff is doing. How is he so successful there? What can I learn from that individual? And I get a lot of those, and I'll be honest, but just like in the same sense of that, people who are I'm proving the doubters wrong. There's probably a lot of people who don't like my shit, but they still watch me and despise me or see what I'm doing, just to see and get an idea. Okay, is he saying he's still doing what he's saying do, and they move on and do their own thing. I don't know why people do that shit, but it's weird. But they're on TikTok. You can watch someone without them knowing that you're there. And that goes back to like, you know, what I was talking about when I was doing the beginning of these, where like I used to go live on TikTok, and then like, you know, I was nervous in the beginning, straight up nervous, or just being scared to go live for 25 minutes. And then you see in the top right, because the top right, it tells you the total number of people who are watching you and seeing like, okay, here's what's active, who's watching. And it can be daunting as fuck where you see in that viewing and see 0. But I told myself, it's just like I said this in many of my podcasts, I told myself, yeah, keep on going, because, and I see it on TikTok, especially on TikTok, you will go to people's live when you're scrolling, you'll see just people just staring, just looking, not saying anything, and they're waiting for the engagement for the person to come in. But like me as a podcaster, me as someone who's trying to give motivation to individuals, how would that look as me about a podcaster and I'm just waiting for the people to come in and talk? I mean, some people are comfortable with that, and that's perfectly fine. I have no qualms with it, and that's teach his own. That's your style. Fucking just do it that way. Like there's like, for example, one of my friends on TikTok, she was doing that this morning, and she's great at it, but she does the panel, like where you in TikTok, you can bring like 6 people up into boxes and you can talk that way. And then she was doing the, you know, the Q&A and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Like there are people that will have the same shit and they'll just wait for the people to come in, or they just have their picture, they have their camera on their face and they wait for the engagement. I can't do that because, like, you know, I feel like it's just like, if I'm an actual podcaster, I should be the one keeping up the fucking pace, not waiting for somebody. It should be me keeping up the pace and talking and engaging with you. And this is where I built this base, starting from the beginning, getting over the fear of like being afraid of what people think and how you sound. Yes, I've heard myself on the long form edit and sometimes I can sound totally gibberish and I had to clean that out. But what's amazing is the more you do this shit, the better it gets. Like, I tell people, it took me a long time to get to this point where I can just keep on talking comfortably and have no worry or qualms of how I feel. Yes, probably there's some people right now just like, man, you still sound like shit. But hey, the teacher's on. I'm still here live talking to people, and people are listening to me on my platforms, here listening to my podcast. But I'm showing the living proof, like, fuck, you can do it. And that's why I tell people, when you listen to me, it's just like, dude, you can do this shit yourself. What makes me any different to you? Just because, like, oh, you know, my moniker is my symbolism is the 2 chains. Oh, I mean, you got 2 chains, you got this, man. You balling. You balling the Philippines. No, it's not necessarily. I go through a lot of shit here I don't even explain. And that's the experiences of being, like, you know, the things that you do, the things you learn and experience, and top of that being a entrepreneur on your own to make your own fucking decision how you're gonna make this sustainable. It can get a little stressful, and you can think, like, how the fuck is this gonna work? And you have to make some decisions to say, okay, do I do this or do this? If I do this, it's gonna risk a lot of shit, but the long run is just able to fix something right now. And that's the stuff you have to deal with. Like, even though, like, people may think that you as an individual, and I've seen this many times, person who is a content creator, like, they're smiling on the screen and then saying everything good, and I ask them on the side in their DMs, how are you doing? Is everything good? And she's like, she's like, no, everything is great. I'm going through the worst patch of my life right now. This is happening. I feel like I just want to just say that's it. Like, that's stuff you don't ever see. But somehow, some way, I pull it out from people. Be like, you know, to be like, they can tell me and they're comfortable with saying what they feel. And I just tell them my piece. It's just like, you know, people are gonna go through shit. Even me, I go through a ton of shit. But just like, you just gotta keep your head up, keep moving. As cliche as it fucking sounds, you gotta keep going. Be consistent with yourself, because one way or another, you will land back on your 2 feet and you'll realize you're even at a better pace than you thought you were before. And that's the thing where it's just like, you know, talking about the experiences that we dealt with, you know, this whole past 2 weeks of like having the patience or building the patience living here, and just talking about this experience of here, just podcasting and whatnot. Like, you just have to go through the motions. You have to think this is part of your process of your, you know, getting to that next level. Everyone will naturally have to go through this stuff because of the fact of this is what you have to deal with. How you expect yourself to get better if you don't even experience from the beginning? Just going again to my journey here as a podcaster, was starting on TikTok. We were never perfect. And I remember, and it's funny because I think about like that podcast group that I'm on Facebook, where it's the podcasters of Facebook. And there's a lot of questions I always see, just like, how do you get comfortable on the camera? I'm still stuttering, blah, 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 blah. Or they ask questions about what do you use to edit software? Or what is the best equipment to have? Blah, 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 blah. Or why isn't that none of my podcasts are getting views? And it's just like people like those, like this things, like the things that people have to come to figure out, okay, like, how do I get better? How to improve yourself? And it takes repetition. It takes time. When it comes to a point, when it comes to a point where you can decide to say, yes, I can get better stuff, then you go through that transition, like, to get to the better stuff. Like, it's just like, for example, like with, you know, my journey here, starting in TikTok, using my phone, where it was just basically my phone. and just talking that way and feeling comfortable. And it led to, like, you know, when the resources were available, start buying my equipment slowly. I told you I've had, like, I went through, and it's funny because I was talking about how many mics I have now, but someone, I think I have the PD400X, the P200, the first mono mic, I had the first setup. I have like at least 5 mics now, and some of those I've been trying to tell my older, I was like, here, you can use this, blah blah blah. That's just sitting in my room waiting for someone to use it. And it's one of the things where just like, for me as a person who works on quality, like, I'm always gonna just meddle with shit. I'm always gonna make sure, like, I at least want to get sound better. Like, again, I mentioned again, getting a PD400X. I didn't have to get this mic, but it just had, there was like a, I guess you can say it was like a deal of a lifetime. Like, it's just like, this is not gonna happen. You should just hop on it now. Why the fuck not? And there was opportunities to fucking do it. So what I ended up doing, just hopped on it, just got the mic, because I always focus on quality. Like the P200X that I had, the version that was the lower version of this, sounded perfectly fine. It was good enough to do a podcast, had no qualms, no problems, blah blah blah. We still did it, but opportunities came. I always talk about it where, like, the universe, like when you keep on progressing to stuff and you're doing things, the universe will give you things and drop on your lap to say, okay, here's something. What do you want to do with it? And it's gonna give you a thing. You can say yes to no to it, because obviously the universe is gonna be like, yeah, okay, it's up to you. But here you go. So this opportunity came with this mic. It's one of the things, like, in TikTok, like, it's a thing called TikTok Shop, right? So I would buy stuff, and this is a pro tip. The main Amazon version in the Philippines is Lazada. There's Lazada and Shopee. So what's connected to TikTok, I think the TikTok United States is what's connected to TikTok United States is probably Amazon. But for Philippines, it's Lazada, but they call it the TikTok Shop. Pro tip: if you're gonna buy stuff, highly suggestible is you buy from TikTok Shop, and you know why? Discounts. Please, even if you're not a content creator, you're just a viewer, and this is for the people in the Philippines, like, you should be using TikTok to buy your stuff from the TikTok Shop, because there's discounts. And this is how I led to this mic, where I would always put it in my bag, in my yellow bag, like the checkout bag, to say, okay, we see how much the price is. And I was like, I'm not ready for it. We'll think about it. I'll just let it marinate in the checkout and see how far we'll go with it if we're gonna decide to buy it. And then here goes TikTok saying, oh, you know, why are you leaving? Are you gonna buy it or not? And it's like, but we'll give you this much. So that's what ended up happening. They gave you more coupons. It's like, here you go, here's a coupon. You want to buy now? So that's where I think I learned. It's just like, okay, well, the right time came where I got the right amount of coupons, and I was just like, fuck it, shit, I'll buy it. Because I think the regular price of this was like 8,000 pesos. 8,000 pesos in US dollars, so 10,000 pesos in US dollars is about 170, 180. So this is more or less like 125 to 150, more or less. So regular price 8,000 pesos. Found a deal where I was able to get near 6,000. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna go for that, because it's a deal to me. Just same thing with my mixer I have, which is the Monocaster 2. This is the Gen 1 version, where there's one XLR and there was a 3.5 millimeter mic jack. So same thing. TikTok was saying, as in TikTok, I was like, are you sure you don't want to buy it? Here's more coupons. I'll give you more coupons. Are you sure? So that's what happened. And this is where going talking about the universe. It's just like, the universe will give you options. It's like, hey, what do you think? You can do it. I think you can do it, but I'm gonna go what you're gonna say. And it's up to you to say yes, nah, or fuck it, let's do it. And that's where, like, those moments like that I have, like, man, fuck it, just do it, see what happens. Even sometimes if it means that, like it's a learning lesson for you. And I've had a lot of learning lessons here in the Philippines where I did stuff where it's just like, fuck, I should have done it that way, but hey, what it is, I own up to it. I did it. What can you do? At least you own up to it. And this is the same thing for this. It's just like, fuck it. Why not get it? because I'm always a person where my quality, like looking at my quality. I think I shared pictures on TikTok, but like basically like my setup right now is just like, I have my Pocket 3, my DJI Osmo Pocket 3 as my camera. So as you can see, I can move around and it sees me and takes pictures. Again, the intention of this was potentially going to be do my long form content, do some vlogs, blah, 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 short form content on TikTok, but it didn't lead that way. So this got shoved into the drawer because I didn't have no use for it. And then the journey of me transitioning from short form content to just more live, to transitioning to a podcaster-ish in a sense, that's where we came to like the transitioning into various mics, blah, 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 and also to like starting to deal with like lights. Lights are fucking important. Like, I'll give you a best example. Maybe like, obviously like you can't tell the folks who are going to be listening to this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, you're not going to see it. Maybe on Spotify you can see it, but on Apple Podcasts you're not. But like, look, here's the best example. That's what I look like without lights. And this is where like investing in lights kind of important, because it makes you look good in your quality. If you don't put lights, then you're gonna look super dark. Even though like I have light in my room, like as you can see, I do have a desk lamp, so like the main light that's on top of me is getting blocked, so you can't see anything. So it's important, like I make an investment, get a fill light, and I also have one right here. It's a vertical LED light that does the same thing, where I can give you the best example. It looks fine, but enunciates, I guess in the sense, enunciates and balances out the quality of the lights that are getting portrayed to me. And this is where it talks about the quality piece. It's like, I'm a person of quality. I want to make sure that I at least have the best version of myself when I'm presenting me to you. And this is where like the iMac came in. Yeah, there's challenges right now with the iMac. I'm seeing my iMac's kind of struggling. I don't know why it's struggling right now, but it is struggling. So, but I'm still looking at YouTube feed. We're still looking fine. But transitioning from being predominantly on my phone did well. I don't have any extravagant iPhone. I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max, and it still works like a champ. It still does everything. I was almost like a year and a half in TikTok on my phone, and we did perfectly fine. And then the moment came where the powerhouse iMac came and arrived in the Philippines, and I was able to do this stuff. Yes, I could have done my M2 MacBook. Right now, my M2 MacBook is just like, okay, if we go to Cebu or we go somewhere where I can't bring my iMac, that's what I will bring. Or if I go to the province house, I will bring that just in case we need a computer. It's not being utilized anymore, but now we have this. And mind you, I can't run all this stuff on my iMac. I talked to you guys many times where I can't run this on my iMac, on my MacBook, because my RAM isn't that big. It's only 8 gigs of RAM, so you can't really do anything on it. It would still struggle when you're doing editing. So this is where the iMac come in. This is where things opened up. This is where the universe said, okay, I have your iMac here. What do you want to do now? And then that's where it led to thinking about my quality. I started venturing and doing OBS and trying to figure out how can I make this work where, maybe I can one day go live on multi-platform, not just YouTube, but I can do YouTube and TikTok. I said this a lot when I was on TikTok. I wasn't trying to do both, but unfortunately, I could technically do it, but it's more on TikTok, because TikTok doesn't allow me to get the RTMP that YouTube provides, which I can run. I'm essentially using OBS to run all this stuff, right? I can't get this stuff in TikTok. I can't get the RMTP from TikTok, all that credentials I need just to have it run in OBS, because for some reason they're very private with this stuff. So unless I'm a huge streamer over there, like I'm talking about like 6-figure following streamers, and they'll probably like, okay, fine, here we go, enjoy. I'm not that. I think right now on TikTok I'm about like 36-30 I checked last time, but yeah. What ended up happening for that is TikTok Live Studio became available for Mac. There you go. We were able to go live on TikTok with TikTok Live Studio using the same quality. Again, like, I focus on quality, and this is kind of why I ended up leaving the podcast, when I'm making the decision to leave the podcast here on YouTube is because of the quality. Right now, unless TikTok increases the bandwidth to, and I can run, obviously this is 1440p that's running live on YouTube right now, and we're perfectly running fine regardless of what my computer is doing right now, where the output is looking good. I'm seeing and watching it right now. If TikTok was able to do the same stuff, then fuck, I would boost it up. We'll probably be still on TikTok. But again, you got to think about growing. You got to think about, you know, not just one platform. You got to think of multiple platforms. How are you going to get bigger? Like, this is where, like, sometimes I see folks, like, they're so focused on one platform and they stay on one platform, but they're probably missing out on a ton of more shit if they went to branch out. That's like where I think about one of my friends, like Maisa Girl. Shouts out to my friend Maisa Girl. Like, it's amazing how much of a relationship we have. Like, for someone specific, and I'll be honest, like, you know, for one individual, we're just like, you know, I know she's predominantly Tagalog, and how we talk to each other on Messenger, and I see it, she's using ChatGPT to translate shit to me and talk to me. I kind of do the same thing to her, but it's amazing how that dynamic has been. Just like, you know, we build a trust together that, you know, where we can be friends like that, and that's cool. But like, speaking of her, like seeing her branch out now, where she's like, she was predominantly in TikTok, and now because of the people she met on the journey, she's meeting people from YouTube. Some streamers who do ghost hunt content, like just like her, they're telling her you should go on YouTube and do this. And look at her, she is almost at 10k followers. She's already monetized, and I know she's gonna do much better on YouTube than what is in TikTok. And I applaud her sometimes. It's just like, fuck, man, like, you know, and you know, it's a challenge for her because, like, you know, she doesn't. I know she can speak English, but like, to be comfortable at it, that's a different level, right? I think being friends with her is helping her. I think, and I always try to sway, just like, I can speak Tagalog, use ChatGPT and just like talk to you in Tagalog. She's like, no, speak English to me. And that's where it's like her growth, where she wants to. We were joking about with her. We're on live on TikTok, and we were on her live, and we're just joking with like the moderators of her, me, her friend, other 2-3 people became friends who were the moderators, and talking about, like, yeah, maybe on YouTube you should have an English only live. Have an English only live, because that's gonna attract more people who are non-Tagalog speakers. Yes, mind you might piss off a lot of Tagalog speakers on YouTube, but just like listeners on YouTube, but like, shit, you're gonna open a different barrier of people who just understand English. And then look at her. Like, I think she's willing to. Maybe one day she'll do it, or we'll see her do a live on YouTube where, you know, she's speaking English. And I know she can confidently do that. I have full trust that she can do that. I have full confidence that she can do it. It's just about just being confident with herself, but just talking in English. Yes, it's not her native tongue. You don't have to be perfect. And I tell people that, you know, for folks who are like predominantly speaking Tagalog and they know English, and it may take them time to comprehend and speak, but they're so worried about like having the best pronunciations, using the best words, the blah blah blah. No, you don't need that shit. I'll be honest with you, you don't need to know the big words. Just know basics enough to communicate with individuals so they understand what the fuck you're saying. Yeah, just like me. I don't understand Tagalog, right? But our native dialect here in Bohol is Visayan, or a dialect of Visayan is Cebuano. Or if you want to even get deeper and specific, there's Boholano, but the main one is Cebuano. Like, I force myself to talk sometimes. Yes, I'm not fluent at it, but like, how the fuck are you gonna force yourself to learn anything if you don't immerse yourself into it? And that's what I do. I immerse myself into it and I force myself to speak. Like, now it's to a point where I'm comfortable talking, sort of, in a sense where it's just like, you know, I can speak in a conversation in Cebuano to somebody and they kind of understand what I'm saying, even though I run into problems where, like, you know, my pronouns are off. You know, it's not about how specific, like how, like, you know, complete you are, but at least you understand the concepts of what that person is trying to convey to you. That's more than enough. So, like, going back to Maisa Girl, just like I tell her, and just any other speaker, just like, fuck, you don't need to know the big. Like, I remember, and the reason I bring that shit up because there's this one person I ran into where, like, I guess he was saying some shit about, like, you have to learn the big words because the big words make you feel good and all this and this and that. And I was like, that's bullshit. No, you don't need none of that shit. Like, you can just have simple words as long as you're a human individual who's able to converse and just talk normally. You don't have to use extravagant words and complex theory to understand the Wikipedia of shit. And just like, fuck, you don't need that stuff. You just need to be a regular human being. You just need to talk. You need to converse and just be yourself. And then you'll be normally comes out. Yes, for my friend, when you saw a girl where she's like, she's English is not her second, is her second language. Yeah, it's gonna be some challenging moments, blah blah blah. But if you feel comfortable like in doing it, then you'll be fine. And that's where I look at it. It's like we're joking. We are joking about it, but just like, imagine she gets through that hump and she's like speaking fluent English in a sense where she's able to convey a message to her people when she's going live. It's like, oh my God, everything's English. Like, what kind of door she's gonna open herself into to other ghost hunters that are outside the Philippines. Because I know she thinks about that shit where she's like, yeah, how can I get bigger and go to other places and do the stuff I'm doing? Because at some point that's growth, where at some point you're gonna get bigger than what you are, and you're gonna lead to you're gonna lead to even better situations for yourself, where it's gonna open doors to stuff you never imagined you can be. Like for her, she can probably be invited to a ghost hunter that's in another country, maybe the United States, and she has an opportunity to go to the United States to do some ghost hunting. And then it's just all because she got out of her comfort zone and spoke English. And that's where sometimes it takes. The main thing of this is just like getting out of your comfort zone. Like, it may be scary as shit of dealing with stuff, but like at the end of the day, when you get through the uncomfortable shit, sometimes the best shit comes out of being uncomfortable. Like, even though it may seem like, man, is this crazy? Am I thinking crazy talk, or is this even worth the avenue of doing this? Sometimes you just gotta push yourself and just say, yes, I'm gonna be fine. And that's where just like the mentality of just being fine and you're gonna be okay and just gonna keep on going. Put your, as people say, put your head down and just keep driving, because you don't know what's gonna happen if you keep on driving. You keep on going forward. As long as it's your purpose, your why. This is your driving force. If you want to be a perfect singer. And speaking of that, like, yes, I do sing on TikTok. So if you want to check out my singing, go make sure you follow me, Joe Lobo 5555. I'll put something here to show you where you can take a look at me on TikTok. You want to ever just see me sing. But yeah, someone made a comment to me. He's like, man, you vastly improved in your singing. And then it's just like, and mind you, it came from me never singing, and I would just keep it private with my family. Yes, I'm part of a family that can sing. More or less. My dad was a great singer. He's been known, like, going to all the Filipino parties, like he's always the one singing. And then my brother, he has the experience of singing, and he's always been known for his singing too. And then for me, they asked, oh, do you sing, Joe? I was like, yeah, no, I don't really sing. Sometimes I don't, but I do sing. And it was like this example where, for example, for one person came into my life and it was like, man, I think you can sing, man. Can I hear you sing? And what ended up happening, that led to me comfortable having lives where I'm just saying, I'm gonna sing, guys. Here, take random songs, I'm gonna sing and go for it. And there we are. We are singing live on TikTok, and then a lot of people like, and then this is the crazy part where just like in my ear, I'm just like, dude, I don't sound that great, but like people are telling me like, man, you sound awesome. So like, hey, as a content creator, shoot, like if I'm making a decision where like one of my major tenets, which is this podcast, which is the plan, is to have this live here on YouTube, then what am I gonna do on TikTok? I'm just gonna let it wither away? No, I gotta do other shit. So what I'm doing on TikTok is now just my video game stuff. Like, I actually went back to playing, if folks probably know what the game is, but if you don't know, it is Hades. That game where like you start from the bottom, you work as hard as you get out to the top. And you're starting from Hades, literally, and you get the stuff to get to the next level up top. However, if you die wherever you are going up, you always end up going back to the bottom. So like, that game was created back in 2021, and I started playing it because like, yeah, I was telling folks I was playing Call of Duty Black Ops 7, But the challenge within that itself is, I think, one, the geographic location here is not that great. I may have fast internet, but like as in that type speed, if you're familiar with that, I think I'm that type 2, moderate. So what that basically means to you is basically it takes me longer to find matchmaking. Also, my netcode can be kind of choppy because I don't think Call of Duty runs on I think it's still delay based netcode. I don't think they do a rollback. I don't know if they do. It's funny too because like I can still go into rooms in Call of Duty multiplayer that like 100 ping, and I think those 100 pings are basically like the United States, basically here. It's like based like where I'm at. I'm in the Philippines. They're probably located in the United States or somewhere in the United States or maybe Australia. Who knows? But getting connected to 100 ping server and kind of looking fine, but yet again milliseconds count, and it's just like literally you think you're shooting, they already shot you already. But it came to a point with Call of Duty where it's just like, fuck man, like people are so progressed, and then just like it's one of the things that you don't start day one. You miss all the people who've been playing it longer than you, and there's people that play for a living, or they just have a lot of free time on their hands, and they're 50 times bigger than you. And it came to a point where just like, man, it just got fresh. It get to a point where like I was starting to get easy to learn like the controls. I was having major issues with controls over on Call of Duty, and I finally got it right. And then it was just like the competition was so strong. There's no rank mode, I don't think. So it's free. It's just free play for everybody. I mean, free play in the sense where it's like different mini levels are all playing together. So there's no rank mode. I don't think there is. I haven't seen it yet. But yeah, so it came to a point where it's like I need to find another game. So here comes Hades. And I was like, fuck, this game's hella fun. There's actually a Hades 2. It is available. It's on PC and I think on Switch. But it doesn't come out for PS5 until I think in the summer. So that'll probably be the next game I'm gonna get. But like Hades is holding me up. I'm having so much fun, even though like we go up and we die a lot. But like I think it's just like getting used to it. And also too, it's one of those games as well where like while you get stronger in the game, the enemies around you get stronger as well. So what I mean by that is even if you start from the beginning, those enemies are probably at the same level as you. So if you're super duper strong, those enemies are probably super duper strong. Maybe a step a little bit back behind you, but they're still strong. So again, fun game. It's freaking amazing. That's one of the things, like, okay, if I'm not doing a podcast here on YouTube, I'm probably there on TikTok doing that, or I'm enjoying random people's lives, hanging out. Lately, what I've been doing on TikTok was I was doing sleep lives. So what sleep live is for you YouTube people, or the people on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, like what the fuck is a sleep live? So sleep live is essentially I'm playing music live while I'm sleeping. And sometimes, surprisingly enough, people will come in, they will hang out with you, listen to music. And I do that because it's kind of soothing. One dual purpose. For people who want to come in and listen to music and come by and just chill. I see a lot of the people I got to know as friends on TikTok, they do the same thing where they do sleep lives together, and I've joined people's sleep lives, and it's cool. I think it's in the ways to get to know the camaraderie, like you get to have the camaraderie with people and get aligned with them and get to know them, and I do the same shit. And like people do the same with me. So like I started doing that, where I connect my iPad to my phone and just play music. And then you have people coming in and listening to music. And I also do like my meditation in the morning. I think I'll start doing that again. I'm bringing it back up, but I'll just like a quick meditation and play music. So been keeping myself busy because, like, again, I've mentioned and you showed you the examples of like, yes, you cannot go full gung-ho podcast every day until you realize the amount of stuff you're getting yourself into, and then the real life stuff happens when you're just like, oh, you can't do this every day. And it's pure truth where I'm saying you can't, because now if you're looking to edit your stuff, long form edits, it'll probably get faster. It'll probably definitely get faster than editing. Like right now, it's taking me 2 days to do a full edit, barring there's setbacks. But if there's zero setbacks, 2 days. if you're just crunching. And this is where, for individuals who have the time to do it. Now, if you have an 8 to 5 and you have to edit a video, it might take you longer than just 2 days, obviously, right? But for me, yes, I have downtime, so I use some of my downtime to edit my video, because this is one of my passion projects. So I'm putting my effort into it, where, like, you know, we're gonna make this shit work. We're going to make sure that we edit this and get it done. This is what I signed myself to do. I consistently tell myself, welcome to the world's famous buildings watch, because I fucking adamantly believe it, that we will touch people. Even though you might have 1,000 people watch me and they just look at the first 10 seconds of it, but there's still gonna be 10 people who'd be like, damn man, you just opened my eyes to shit. And that's what I'm waiting for. I think there's probably a bigger potential for me to do that here than over in TikTok. Because TikTok is a different, like I said, I mentioned it many times, TikTok's a different beast. Like TikTok is and especially in the Philippines, it's more of the camaraderie, and you know, you can do certain things to make it work. But like for TikTok, it's more of just like getting together with people and talking in their lives. And then some people go through like a podcast style live, but they've had people ask questions and go through a conversation panel and that stuff. But like purely for this stuff, yes, I can go do this on TikTok, but it's always, to mention you guys, always been an issue for me, which is like, American speaker speaks English, but I'm talking to a Tagalog crowd. TikTok here in the Philippines, I'm connected to is predominantly a Tagalog crowd, so it's kind of a challenge for me to even do that. At least in YouTube, yes, I'm probably getting connected to YouTube Philippines, but I have a bigger potential to be connected to a bigger crowd across the world. And that's interesting too, because I was looking for my analytics. There's multiple countries looking at the ones that got algo boost. I think there's a lot in the United States, a lot in India, and a lot of European countries. So I think the benefits for me were just like, you know, and the good thing about YouTube is that I think you have to enable it, but you can enable the closed caption to be specific to what you understand. So like if you, for example, speak English, but the video you're watching is, for example, a video like this is how I can watch some of my friends when they're doing ghost hunts on YouTube. I can select and put it in English in the subtitles. Like now I can understand it, kind of, instead of just me watching, it's being like, I don't know what the fuck he's saying. But now it's like, okay, this is what he's doing. So that's fucking amazing. We're just like, I think here on YouTube, there's a better chance for me to succeed in the type of avenue I'm in, where there's gonna be a lot more people who are, as in the resources available. It might be easier to get a bigger following here on YouTube. I'm not saying I'll have a huge following, but eventually, within time, I always firmly believe that will come to you. It's just with the views, where, you know, people may believe, man, I only gained 10 views or 5 views. It's inconsistent, but there's gonna be that one video you might do something wild and crazy, then all of a sudden you gain to thousands. And then the same thing, okay, you only have 10 followers, 10 subscriptions, but that 10 subscriptions gonna turn to 100, or maybe I turn to 1,000, or may turn to 10,000. Who the fuck knows? But the main important shit that I always have to lead back to is just that being consistent. Even though it feels terrible, even though it may seem like this is going nowhere, in your mind, you're telling yourself, this is going nowhere. Is this the right shit I'm doing? It makes you second guess yourself. But if you take a step back and just realize, like, okay, we're gonna get somewhere with this. I don't know how we're gonna end up. And that's the most important thing I've learned from the law of attraction, is you don't need to know the how. Don't be so fucking specific on how you're gonna get there, because if you be so specific to how you're gonna be there, you're just narrowing down the opportunity. When you say, I don't know how I'm gonna get there, versus, no, we're gonna get there because this is how we're gonna get there. The chance of it opening up, you know what I mean? If you allow it, and I always tell lately, like my meditations, like there's one meditation, I found this person here on YouTube. It's Alchemy Healing. Her name is Owa. She's a Reiki master. And lately I've been meditating to her stuff a lot. Amazing individual. She sent her power, but just like, you know, just She does specific ones within manifestation, specific things that clean your energy. And again, I'm a big individual where just like who's big on that stuff. It's very spiritual. Like when I meditate, I always call the people who I know are always around me, the ones that are beyond me, if you know what I mean. Whether you believe in this stuff enough, whether you believe in there's a beyond this or not, or you believe that we just turn to dust and we just disappear, I always believe the people who are forefathers are, the individuals who are loved ones who are beyond us. They can visit you. They're probably with you if you call your name. And there's probably the same people I call every day when I meditate, that they always arrive. They come. And this is why I tell people when they're like, missing their individuals who just went on beyond, and I tell them like, it's just a matter of you calling them, then they'll be there. And I believe that, where when you're on the beyond state, it's not like you can't hear anything. And the same thing too is just like the value of language. I think when you go beyond, you probably are multi-dimensional in any language you are, or you're not restricted to just one language. You can probably learn all the many languages immediately. Like it's like the Matrix, where just like the part. And if you watch the Matrix in the first movie, where like he was getting loaded up with the programs, and the first thing he got loaded up was Kung Fu. And he was like, I know Kung Fu. It's probably the same thing when you move beyond. It's like, now, not only do you know English, but you know 1,000 other dialects and blah, 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 blah. You never thought you knew what now you know. So it's just like, what I say with that is just like, basically, I always call, and then I'm speaking more of the people like when I meditate. And I think I was thinking about this this is one of the things I wanted to talk about as well when I was thinking about this podcast. Is just like, how do you get yourself centered? How do you get yourself to a position? And this is why I brought up the alchemy. That's at the Oa from Alchemy Healing. Why I brought her up, it's just like, how do you get yourself in a position to get aligned with stuff? And with with the law of attraction, what I mean by that, not get aligned with stuff. What I mean by that is, how do you get yourself aligned to be like in that position to be more welcoming to the events, the circumstances of what you are, whether it means meditation or whatever activity you do, or it's prayer. How do you get yourself to that position where it's just like, okay, after you do this one thing that you do every day, like you're gonna be okay. And for you all, and I mentioned this before, like this is what I do, right? I meditate daily. Sometimes I meditate twice a day. Actually, today I meditate twice a day. There's actually been a meditation I've been doing from Alchemy Healing that is more, I think it's about manifestation, that I've been doing a lot lately. It's a 33 meditation. You don't have to do anything. You just have to be centered and you listen to Oa. Oa does her magic as a Reiki master. Like if you actually watch her video, Alchemy Healing, I'll put an example here. Alchemy Healing, you can see if your eyes were open. I close my eyes and meditate, but you see her eyes open. She's doing her magic or whatever with the stones or whatever energy is. Energy transferred to you to make sure thing. Whether you believe in this stuff or not. But for me, I do believe in it. I believe in energy. I believe in law of attraction. I believe in manifestation. Teach his own. If you don't believe in it, then at least respect what I'm trying to say. So for me, I meditate. I make sure, and it's came to a point where like it feels weird if I don't meditate. It really does. It feels weird. If I miss a day, then it feels like something's off. So it's kind of my balancing of the day, where like every morning, maybe not immediately do it, but we get to a position that we at least meditate. I pick something random here on YouTube. Lately, it's been a lot of Alchemy Healing. I get some Tara Brach. I've done a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza's, but it's interesting because some of the accounts, I think the accounts I was following or subscribed to here on YouTube, they probably were bots because they are no longer in my subscription anymore. So teach his own for that. But basically, I meditate. I go into those positions of just like, having the attitude of gratitude, being thankful for what you have right now. Being grateful for things, even the circumstances that they haven't occurred yet, but they have. Or just being happy and grateful for like, being able to track stuff versus chasing things. Like that's one of the ones of not manifestation, one of the meditations I've been doing from not Golden Alchemist, but the Alchemy Healing. Golden Alchemist is another person you should follow if you see him in platforms on, I think, Instagram or TikTok. Golden Alchemist is a tarot reading guy, specific on your signs. He's really good. You should check him out. But for Alchemy Healing, there was one that she did. It was for, I think it was for, my goodness, I forgot the name of it. It was for manifestation or just making sure. Oh, here it is. To attract but don't chase. It's a 33 meditation. I've been doing that lately. But basically, it's getting you in the position where you're not chasing. And I always believe in law of attraction. You shouldn't be chasing anything. If it's meant for you and you're manifesting it, they naturally come to you. And again, grain of salt, folks. Like, you may not believe in law of attraction. You believe in your traditional, religious stuff, and I'm not gonna have no qualms with that. You're free to believe what you want to believe. But for my sake, it's just like, I believe there's an energy above us that we call many different names, and we may have them in the different belief systems of what they do for us. But for me, I mentioned it many times here on my platform, on my podcast, I call them the universe. The individuals who work with you, with your belief, and put the cards in play to let you say, okay, here we go. And the main thing is, and they're never going to say no to you. The answer is always yes. So as long as you have this firm belief in whatever you believe in, they're going to show you things and just be like, here you go. What do you think? Yes, no? We're going to go up for you. And that's where meditation comes to play, to get you at the higher state of awareness, where I talk about authenticity and the highest level of version of yourself is authenticity. And there's times where I feel I hit that. I get to authenticity, where it's just you are actively, and this is where you can tell you're in authenticity, where you're actively manifesting stuff in an instant. And I've had that, where the synchronicities of stuff are so fast, where you are immediately thinking, believing, manifesting immediately. The best examples of that is just where there was a person, someone we met mutually that was working with my friend at a coffee shop here in Bull Hole. I talked to this many times on TikTok, but for the YouTube people, and also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, you heard this many times as well. I was thinking about that. Well, we'll think about what I'm thinking about right now. But basically, this person working in a coffee shop, she was brand new. I didn't know her name. Me and my brother didn't know her name. I was like, what the fuck is her name? And then the owner that we know, our friend, she wasn't there today. So it was just like, okay, we can ask her. And the mind came, that's like, what the fuck is her name? The weirdest shit ever happened a couple of hours after that. I get an Instagram request of that person and her name. Mind you, I never provoked anybody to ask who is this person, specifically into the actual person in their eyes, and said, what's her name? It was just me and my brother, what's her name? I forgot her name. She was a brand new worker. And then lo and behold, I get a friend request from her. Whether you believe it or not, agree to disagree, by law of attraction, I feel that universe just said, here we go. I'm going to put some magic to work. To somehow, some way, she likes your content because you're a content creator. She's gonna start following you, and then you'll find out her name. It's a big example. So we could leave this for another topic for another day. And I was thinking about that, where it was just maybe I should bring up the law of attraction stuff here, just my bringing of okay, what I experienced, how I got there. Here's examples I did. What is the law of attraction? How do I do it? We should probably do that. Maybe we want to do it for the next one. We'll see. But specifically, this thing we're talking about, I don't lean more towards okay, well, how do you get yourself to the position where you're calm and get that sort of reassurance to yourself that's going to be okay. For me, it's meditation. Meditation gets me to a state of being where it's just okay, everything's good. And I mentioned this many times, whether you believe it or not, the concept of third eye. I do have a third eye. I do have a third eye. It usually comes out when I meditate. Sometimes randomly when I'm outside or focusing on something, it turns on. It's right here. Between your eyebrows, around this area. It's my third eye. And usually when I meditate, it does appear. And then it's because I'm probably super focused or in line at that moment in time with the meditation, or just like with the people, the people at the beyond that's around us, and just like, just getting to the motion of like just being aligned. It just like randomly turns on. And just like some people, and may think it's a bad thing. People like me, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's just like you're getting to a higher state of awareness where it's just like it's allowing you to get to that position where just like that belief is driving it. So like, yeah, I meditate, and it's usually meditations where are tied into specific law of attraction stuff, or just more of just relaxation exercises, like specific, like this one right now with alchemy healing, and the Reiki master is Owa. Her stuff is amazing, but like, been going back to like never chase, but let it come to you, like attract and don't chase. Like, that's one of the things I always talked about before, just like, like why, and I came to that situation where some individuals, like I was trying to chase somebody, trying to chase a friendship, but it came to be like a situation where like I was talking to a brick wall. And then that's why I was telling myself, like, why the fuck am I doing this? I'm talking about the law of attraction. By law of attraction, it will come to you if it's meant to you. It's come to you if it's in your path of where you're going. So why do you need to chase? So that's where like that situation, it took me a long time to realize that. Taking my own words of advice, and I was just like, okay, stop fucking chasing. It's attract your way. So with meditation, it allows me to get to that position where just like, I'm just trying to actively trying to get myself aligned. Because for the manifestation, you have to be in that mindset where, you're in firm belief of what it is. Like the attitude of gratitude, being beyond grateful for what things you have and what you don't have, but what you're going to have, but it's not physically there yet. This is where the meditation helps for me. And then it's like, it helps with the visualization game. Like when you're seeing, like, what do you feel like when you're there? What do you see when you're getting that pinnacle that you always talk about? Like when I always say for my podcast, billions watched, world's famous. Like I visualize like seeing how far like I go on these platforms, like seeing like, for example, like for YouTube, seeing how to gain the viewers on videos. This is where meditation helps with that. And for you, even to go and even going further back, why did I start meditation for me? And there's no other, again, mind you, there's many other ways how people can get themselves aligned and get the simple peace. It can be doing exercise, it can be prayer. But for me, it's meditation. And how I got to that one point is just like, because if you didn't know, I was an individual who was, kept a lot of stuff inside. And I mentioned this before, like when I was 20 years ago, like half my life ago, because I'm 44 now, about to be 45. But when I was in my 20s, or even teens to my 20s, early 30s, I was very insecure in my life. I was very worried of what people thought about me, and just had to lay down to every individual to make sure that I can be their friend, and just lay down, regardless if it means like I have to be someone I'm not. And it was like a lot of holding in, a lot of stress. And I remember back then, I was just going through a lot of anxiety. Or just like, like combination of friendship and combination of work, like holding it in. And that's one of the worst things as a male. That's one of the worst things you should ever do, is holding that shit in and saying, oh, I can't show no emotion because I'm a male. Nah, fuck that. That you have to let it go somehow. Whether you meditate or do whatever. But this is where I'm trying to lead to. At one point in my life, when I was in my corp life, it happened, this event happened twice. I have been a victim of panic attacks. And they're scary as shit. Don't get me wrong. Having a panic attack is freaking scary. The first experience of a panic attack was when I was working. And this is where, where, mind you, I was working for an e-commerce company. I was working for Walmart at that time. The e-commerce part. Or in Walmart in California. And we were at the high time of the season, where it's holiday, where it's the holiday season. We're in retail, and it's like bam, 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 bam. You have to work fast. If you don't work fast, then you're not going to be productive. And it happened twice. There was a moment where just like, the stress took over. I had a panic attack, and it was leading to, like, you can tell when you're having a panic attack, where just like, those moment times where you're having like chest pains, or you're having lightheadedness, or it's just like something don't feel right, or it's just like you feel out of the ordinary, you don't feel good. And it came to one point I remember where this is the first actual point where I had my experience panic attack, where I had, I just felt something was wrong, like shortness of breath, had a super lightheadedness, and I told my boss, I was like, I gotta go, I don't feel good. I didn't feel good, and it got progressively worse. It came to a point where I remember this back then, I think the Walmart parking garage, they were doing some construction in the garage, so like it was super overpacked. Like it was a concrete underground garage, but there's over so many cars like parking on the side where you're not supposed to park, but they had to park anyway because there's no parking, so they had just made it fit, and it was super compact. I was going through the motions of a panic attack where I somehow, some way was able to drive my car out of the garage, almost to a point that I was about to hit cars to get out of the parking garage, but I made it out of the parking garage. But what ended up happening is I didn't even make it out. I made it out to the shopping center across the street. And then what ended up happening is that I called in the United States. I called emergency. United States is 911. So I called 911. I called 911. I was like, hey, I'm having a panic attack in the parking lot. I need help. And what ended up happening, I got rushed in the ambulance to a nearby hospital. I remember my manager and my director came to see me, and this is the time when they saw me getting pulled into the hospital, into the ambulance. And then to make sure, okay, I remember calling my coworkers and I was like, hey, I'm having a panic attack across the street. I need some help. And then I think one of my friends actually called 911 to get the ambulance over. And then, yeah. So anyway, we were driving to I got to the hospital. We're driving to the hospital, got there. And then basically they're doing the checks to make sure everything's good, blah, blah, blah. Everything internally was good. And they just told me, yeah, you just suffered a panic attack. Like, you just popped. So they gave me some meds to make me feel better. Somehow, some way, I don't know. I give it up to my parents. Like, this is where like the age of, they don't know how to use GPS. Somehow, some way, they were able to get to the hospital I was at near my work, and they picked me up. But I remember within that time though, like, they told like before that happened, before they picked me up, when they were discharging me, they were saying like, yeah, you suffered a panic attack, we gave you some meds, here you go, there's so much we can do. And they were giving me the, oh, here's the bill, there's how much you got to pay. And then I was literally pacing back and forth. I don't know, I was still a bit discombobulated, but I was pacing back and forth trying to figure what the hell to do. And like, I didn't have the funds to pay it. So I was just like going back and forth, like, do I have to pay right now? Can I just pay later? And I was like, yeah, pay later. And I just see him pacing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then it wasn't until my parents got to the hospital and picked me up, and then we just went back to my car that was across the street. Weirdness enough, I was able to drive my car back to my house, to the old house in the United States. And how far I lived from where I worked was, I think it was about like what? We'll just say in traffic, it took me 2 hours to get home. The distance was probably 30 miles or so, where 40 miles or so to get home. And somehow, some way, I was able to drive home. But that's where the first instance of the panic attack happened, where just like, I had learning lessons from that. We're just like, okay, don't stress out at work because this shit will happen. Like, don't overwork yourself, but you're gonna get to a point, if you overwork yourself, you can get here. So lessons learned. And then I started doing meditation, or just like, trying to find an avenue where I can release my stress. And more or less I was doing meditation. There's an app that I forgot, what the hell was the app I used? There was an app I was using that had guided meditations I was using. This is how I found like Tara Brock. She was on that app I was using, and started meditating. I was getting good at it. And then like, there was times it wasn't consistent, but I was meditating whenever I needed a release. I was doing it. I think a year or two later, or 3, I don't know, was it a year or 2 later? Maybe it was longer than that, but again, same situation. It was at work. This one was different. This was, yes, I had added stress at work and I was dealing with shit at work, but like, it was triggered by something. It was triggered by a fucking movie. if you know Key and Peele, the guy who I think it's Peele. I don't know. One of them basically. He makes horror movies that are freaking scary as shit. And it was one of those movies that I watched of him. And then something happened in that movie where it just triggered something in me. And then the panic struck it. With all the stress I was dealing with work, it just started this time bomb in my mind. It came to Thanksgiving, where like we went to my cousin's house, and it was a usual annual Thanksgiving party in my cousin's house. I drove there, but it just got progressively worse, like to the point where I couldn't drive, where it started getting sensitive. And this, mind you, like 2 days ago, like a day ago, I was watching that movie from Key and Peele, like that Peele guy, I forgot his name, who makes the horror movies, and it just got progressively worse. Same thing, couldn't drive home. We got home, I had to let my brother or someone drive home, and then the battle of 15 hours of panic attack happened. Now this is the worst one, where it basically was 15 hours of doom, literally. I could not sleep. My body was in the mode of fight or flight. It was to a point where it seemed as if my body was thinking that, okay, get your bags ready because it's going to be time for you to go. Like, I remember that. It was scary as shit, where like panic struck in me, where you're getting pumped with all this adrenaline. You don't know why, but you're in fight or flight for some reason. And it's just like, I remember going back and forth, and I remember seeing my parents. This all happened in my house in the United States, where I was like going through the worst shit ever. And it was like literally to a point where I think in my mind, I was like, is this it? Am I going crazy? Is this finally it, where I'm just gonna pop and that's it, bye bye, going to the beyond now? And it was literally like that, where it was 15 hours of this, 15 hours of just, I don't know, it was weird. It was going through the panic attack, and then we came to the position, because I knew what it was. We ended up going to the hospital again. My parents drove me to the hospital, and then same thing. Doctor said like, yeah, everything's fine. You're looking good. You just suffered a panic attack. And I was like, oh, okay. So same thing. They gave me drugs, gave me meds. Came home, took the meds. I was more calm. Whatever. I think it was like a antidepressant or whatever it was. But like it immediately made me feel better. And then from that, moving forward, my partner was a nurse, and then they were suggesting me to see a psychiatrist. So I did see a psychiatrist. I did see one just to see if everything is okay. And then like it turned out to be the first meeting, because he was asking questions, are you good, blah blah blah, like how you deal with this stuff. And then I kind of told her, like, I knew what I got myself into was because of this. And one of the things, as solutions that she provided me, was a pamphlet about meditation. Kind of full circle moment, where I was kind of doing it before, where basically I wasn't doing it religiously, but I was meditating. And then it was this full pamphlet talking about, oh, here's a meditation exercise you can do, blah 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 blah, this and that. This is how you can help yourself get to feel better, and blah blah blah, if you're in circumstances where you're stressed out. And that's where the moment came, where it was like, okay, let's take this shit seriously. Let's meditate and force ourselves to meditate every day. Until then, 15 years later, 15 years straight, yeah, it's always been like, up and down, to all of a sudden where we're at now, we're consecutively doing it every day. Where it's to a point now where if I don't do this, I feel weird if I don't meditate every day. So this shit will keep me sane to making sure I meditate. So that's what I do. I take minimum 15 to 30 minutes. Sometimes I can go 40 minutes of meditation, getting my mind right, getting myself aligned, being grateful for what I get myself into, being grateful for the things I'm grateful for. And it's all guided meditations. Those meditations that I mentioned before, like if you have an opportunity to check them out, Tara Brock here on YouTube is one. I go to her page and meditate to some of her stuff. Her stuff is cool. Jay Shetty is one. I think you can find Jay Shetty meditations here on YouTube. I haven't done his a lot. Dr. Joe Dispenza, because of the fact that he's lined with the law of attraction manifestation. I did his stuff specifically. I was subscribed to 2 channels, but I don't know, maybe there were bots. And then those are one of those pages where I saw was just like, okay, you're giving a membership for $200 a month, and I'm just like, that's a lot. But yeah, they had good meditation, but the intention was like it was lined to manifestations for abundance, for wealth, for like bringing family, bring yourself and connecting and attracting you to whatever you want to believe. Like I was listening to that stuff, and then here comes the recent one where Alchemy Healing. Her name is Oa. I think she lives in Alaska, because like right now her background is like she's in snow. My guess she lives in Alaska, and she speaks perfect English. She looks Asian or Native American and whatnot, but she's a Reiki master. I don't know what exactly a Reiki is, but I think they're probably those ones who practice like energy and like, incantations, whatever you want to call it. Her stuff is cool. I like her stuff. I've been meditating her a lot. Like I mentioned before, there's one specific meditation I've been doing a lot lately where it's kind of been a repetitive one, where it's just like the actively attract but don't chase. It's one of the more recent ones. If you want to take a look for Alchemy Healing here on YouTube, you should check her out. I do her stuff every day. Sometimes I do some of her stuff twice a day, and then go back and forth between her, whatever I can find. Even Tara Brock. Also too, I listen to sometimes, I haven't done race recently, but I listen to like Tibetan singing bowls. Man, if you haven't listened to Tibetan singing bowls, you should, because man, the vibration, the sounds, and again, this is all off of YouTube. You can find this stuff on YouTube where people are doing the Tibetan singing bowl stuff, and you just vibe into it, and you just feel like you just feel relaxed from whatever you're thinking, or whatever you're chanting in your mind, or whatever you're getting yourself aligned to. Definitely gets you to that place. But yeah, like this is what I do. I meditate. Many people can do some other stuff. I remember, and it's interesting too. Like I remember when people I tell people like, hey, I suggest like, hey, you should meditate, blah blah blah, and they're like, no, I've tried before and it didn't work. It doesn't work for me. And I'm just thinking in my head, it's just like, yeah, of course. How many times have you done it? And they're just like, oh, I just did it once. And again, it comes back to like what I was talking about before, like the main stuff is like you have to be consistent about it. You have to keep doing it over and over and over. Like to get the full long-term benefit of it, you gotta do it more than once. So the same thing with meditation. I'm not gonna. I would, in a way, like, don't expect like after one meditation, like you're magically healed. that wow, that happens to you. Congratulations, shit. You magically got to alignment, and you now are perfectly fine. You just need that one meditation. But shit, for me, I gotta do this shit every day. It's like a discipline. Just like how I'm trying to get into like starting to exercise more. I've been doing a lot of walking, and I, like lately, last walking I did was like 8 kilometers. So what's that? More or less 6 miles of walking, 7 miles of walking. And it's hot as fuck here, so like we've been doing this in the heat. But basically, just being consistent about it. And just one thing, go back to meditation. This helps me move through the day. Like it helps me be consistent. Again, there's many avenues that people do. People tell me like they take walks, or they exercise, they do yoga, or they just pray. It's all the same concept where you're getting your mind positioned, or you're getting your mind, or getting yourself in the perspective where it's just like, okay, everything's okay. I don't have to stress about anything because it's only temporary. And that's how that constant reminder people is like it's temporary, the shit you're dealing with. Even the stuff I'm dealing with, it's temporary. Like it may seem like, oh my god, what's gonna happen next if I do this? What's gonna happen next? But it's just like, fuck, some way, somehow I leave it off to the universe. And I always tell in these meditations now, it's just like, I surrender, universe. Just like, let's make this, put this thing together how it's supposed to be. And not just like, no, I know somehow, some way I'm gonna get there. I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna get there, but we'll get there. And I leave it and I say, surrender to the universe. Just give the solutions. Find the solutions. Find the connecting dots, or get the chips, or not get the chips, but get the puzzles that will connect together to complete this puzzle. And you just have to be a firm belief, and that's where meditation helps me. Meditation helps me get aligned like that. Meditation helps me open up my third eye. Like, and who else has a third eye? Melissa girl has a third eye. my friend who is a ghost hunter. Hers, I think she said it turns on when she's ghost hunting. So it allows me to turn my third eye on and just like to get me at peace. And I would just encourage folks, like, geez, it's like for you, maybe meditation may not be for you, but find that avenue, find that way to get you in a position where, like, you know, you can let it go. You can just for maybe 15 minutes of your super busy day, just get some time to yourself. And you'll be surprised what that 15 minutes can do for you every day. If you can just let your mind just settle and just relax. How much of a difference that can do for you, where it may change your perspective of stuff. And that's where I challenge you folks. We're just like, people are watching me, just like, you know, what do you do to get yourself there? What do you do to get yourself calm? Because there's a lot of people I know, just like, you know, even the folks I still talk to, my old friends, are just like, they go through shit and just like, they don't know how to deal with it. You see them like reaching out to me and they're like, what the fuck do I do? And I have to calm them down. It's like, dude, it's gonna be all right. And then there's the same other people who come to me, it's like, man, you're full of shit. Like, I can't believe your shit. Oh yeah, you're hoobly ha blah blah. Well, it works for me. And that's where, like, you know, I talk about, like, maybe the next podcast we should talk about, like, the upbringings of law of attraction, the manifestation, like what I've experienced. And then many people will tell you, man, you're full of shit, that this is not real, but teach his own. I've seen my experiences where it's just like, it is real. Anyway, when it comes down to it, and I think we'll end with this, I'm seeing how far we're into this, but you just gotta find your way to get yourself comfortable. Whatever it is, find it, do it consecutively, get to a position where gets you aligned to what focus you need. And you'll be surprised when you give yourself that daily, whatever it is, whether it's meditation or it's walking or it's praying or just sitting down, listening to music for like 30 minutes. It can do so much of a difference for you. So anyway, again, we had a long journey today to get to where we are with a lot of iMac computer troubles, but we're here. We're able to do a 2-hour podcast. Again, it's always an honor and pleasure to talk to you all here on YouTube, or if you find me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or you're catching me on some posts I did on TikTok. And then I'm working on something else, or I'm building a presence on Instagram as well. I decided to make a public page. I have to wait though, because I kind of messed up on the name. So like, I'll wait till it's 14 days and start putting stuff there. So like, yes, I have a public IG page. You can probably find it. It's the same name that I use here, Lobo Presents. So we're working on that. Another platform to work on, but it's gonna be the same shit. It's gonna be like where my shorts are, or what I do is post on TikTok. Same stuff, but it's just another platform that we have to put another layer of putting myself out there so people know about the podcast specifically. So like, you know, things about like TikTok will be more like everything, where you'll see bits and parts of my podcast, but you all see the stuff I do, like play video games or I'm singing. You'll see stuff here on YouTube will be basically my podcast specific stuff. I think Instagram's gonna be basically a mirror image of what I see on YouTube. It's just another branch to get my stuff out there. And just it all leads back into coming back here. Folks will say, oh, what's this post I'm seeing on Instagram? Oh, I need to see this guy. So that's how you get yourself out. You gotta think bigger than one box. This is the stuff like when I was on TikTok. Just on TikTok, I was telling people who when we started this journey, and I always initially thought it was gonna be one way, but you know, it's weird how the universe takes you. It's just like it can lead you one way, it might steer you somewhere totally different. I remember having this idea and vision, which is like, you know, we'll be this way with a group of friends, and never let that way. It's perfectly fine. I mean, at the end of the day, I was telling him, like, it's by choice. Like, if you decide you want to do this, you'll do it. But if stuff happens, no big deal. We're still friends. So remember having this idea and vision. We're just like, okay, we're gonna be this way, we're gonna do this, but it never worked out. And that's where I always tell them is you gotta think bigger than TikTok. Because what if TikTok disappears? And then look at where I'm at now, where yes, started in TikTok. Now I pushed myself to Spotify, and then Spotify turned to Apple Podcasts, and then we came back here into YouTube, and then now I'm talking about I'm gonna be on Instagram. And I'm also thinking about Facebook. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. There's a lot of platforms to manage. But anyway, it's been always an honor and pleasure to speak my knowledge, and hope you get inspired by me somehow. And if you do, I appreciate you subscribe to me, like this live, like this podcast, because it helps me on YouTube. So the algo says, man, I need to push this to more people. I need you to get you more more subscribers. So it's always an honor and pleasure. You can share my content. You like the stuff, even like this podcast would do tons. But it's always a pleasure. This is meant for the people and individuals who need something to wake them up, or need some motivation, or just wants to hear someone's experience of dealing with a bathroom in another country that's not the United States. Again, my name is Joe Lobo. I'm part of Joe Lobo Presents, and this is the Authentic Podcast. Thank you for giving me a listen. I hope you have a wonderful and great night. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take care.